I don't know. Julie would have.
Town at ARB, you are live.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Cunningham. I welcome you to the Architectural Review Board meeting of September 22nd, 2022, the first day of autumn, and it feels like it out there. I want to thank the board and the staff and our council for filling in my absence last week, and for everybody, applicants as well, to being flexible with the schedule changes and so forth. I'm just going to read a little bit tonight about the assurance of harmony, which is one of the responsibilities of the the Architectural Review Board, and what we're meant to be assessing when we look at these applications. I've been reading from the code since I took this job, just because it helps me, and I think it helps applicants and everybody understand what we're doing here. So the assurance of harmony, the review board is further charged with exercising sound judgment and with rejection of plans, which in its opinion, based on study and advice, are not of harmonious character because of proposed style, scale, materials, mass, line, color, detail, or placement upon the property or proposed buildings or structures, or in relation to the spaces between the buildings or the natural character of the landscape, or because of lack of provision for balance between the proposed location and design of structures and adjacent open areas or adjacent existing structures, whether on or off the lot or site in question. It's kind of a long run-on sentence. My English teacher would have had a field day with that one, but it gives you a sense of the scope of what we're looking at and what is our responsibility to assess as we're looking at these applications. So I thank you for bearing with me on that. And as the first order of business, I'd like to take a motion to approve the minutes of September 15th. So moved. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm abstaining from that because I wasn't at that meeting. And then we'll go to the first order of business, which is in the historic district category, Brad Schiff and Jen Roth, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-80-2-2, which is 35 Old Stone Highway. Is the applicant, or hello, would you like to come to the Mr. Pollock, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, hi, it's nice to see you again.
You too.
I think I think as we've met before, and I know you know this, we've had a couple of meetings, you and I and Frank and some other folks. And I think that tonight it'll be your chance to just show the board what exists and what your plans are, because I don't think we've gotten any further than that really in this assessment.
Okay.
Okay, unless you have something new to offer.
I do have something new to offer.
Oh, excellent.
I have a little bit further. Well, we can talk about it when we get to it.
Yeah. Why don't you just present the application as
Pull up my pictures.
Yeah.
Ah, there we go. The house we are doing, my name is Andrew Pollock. I'm architect for Brad Schiff and Jen Roth. They own the house at 15 Harbor Lane, which is next door on the water. It's a 1974 mid-century modern house. And you can see there, you can see it behind. And they bought this lot and wanted to create a compound of their mid-century language, which was, oddly enough, at this point, at 50 years old, it's almost a historic style, or is a historic style, could be discussed as. We wanted to build a house on the lot. You can go back a few. Keep going. Yeah. We sited the house on the property 150 feet back from Old Stone Highway. The only part of the only outside perimeter of this property that is on the historic district is that frontage on Old Stone Highway. The entire portion, actually, we can go to the map of the.
It's an L-shaped lot. I just wanted to make sure the board could see that L-shaped lot with the frontage.
Am I up to date?
That's that Springs General Store to the left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first one again.
Oh, this is, no, you don't have.
Oh, no, I got it.
Okay. There we go. Oh, no, that's slide.
The map.
There you go. If you could see closely, I could point.
Is there a way to zoom in on that a little bit?
Not,
Thank you.
yeah.
This is our lot. This green represents the 1974 house that they own, modern house that they own. We wanted to build a compound between these two houses, and they would be open to each other, but single and separate lots. And just wanted to point out that the Old Stone Highway, the historic district starts as you cross Shipyard Lane. So Shipyard Lane itself is not part of the historic district, nor any of the houses that border this lot. The only bordering house is the Springs General Store that is a historic district. And so just wanted to make that point clear. And then we can go forward one. Okay, so we sited our house back 150 feet so that we could put a pool and the septic. And then our intention is to completely screen the property. And the goal would be to have these two houses, though there's trees between them, would speak to each other both in language and historic style that they are. And this entire front area would be left untouched and would give the Old Stone Highway look of the house would not change at all. So that as you view this property from crossing into the historic district, you would not know this property is there. That was the intention of the design. Furthermore, we are looking at the house as a one-story house that's no more than 13 feet. It's a 2,000 square foot house that's no more than 13'4" high. So it's modestly built compared to what's allowed to be built on the lot. And it's low enough that the screening of the property would completely obscure the house. We can move on. This is showing the entrance here. This is the first tree that starts the historic district. So the historic district is starting from here beyond. Our intention is to have the property completely screened and the entrance to the property, something like this is a conceptual drawing where there'll be a break in the screening and an oyster shell path that goes in there so that you almost feel like we don't know what's back there. It's very important. The clients were very interested in ensuring their own privacy and not being seen from the road and not being as long before we ran to the historic district issue. Concept invisible from the road. We unfortunately, we don't have to talk about the history of this, but we started the project, we started the construction of the project. We didn't realize that it was historic, that we were in the historic district. We accept that. It's Dan Weaver from Walbridge never put it on the maps. I never caught it. We never caught it. We started construction. The town didn't catch it. The building department didn't catch it. We started construction. We have the foundation finished. We have it backfilled. We're ready to go. And suddenly we got to stop work. We never went to the ARB. That's why we're here. We've been trying our best to resolve this issue. And we've had a good dialogue, I think, in what we're doing to try and mitigate this problem. This slide here, we can leave it, shows the concept of what we're going after is that these two low-slung modern houses that would be very simple. I did look at the possibility if we had a roof on this house as a single-story roof and it met the 6 and 12 criteria that is being asked for, instead of a 13-foot high building, it would be 24'6". So all you would have is an asphalt shingle roof. And in my mind, that doesn't make it a better historic neighbor than, as a matter of fact, it makes it a worse historic neighbor because now you're having a asphalt shingled roof coming above the trees. And it doesn't serve anybody's interest in protecting. What we're trying to do is protect the historic nature of the site. You can go on. Keep going. This is just showing you the height of the house. So this is where we've changed since last week.
Could you just step back to the mic unless you really need to? Because I know when I looked at last week's meeting, if people wander away from it, you can't hear the recording, and I wasn't here, so it was important for me to have that.
If you look at this map, what we're suggesting now to ensure that those trees that are on Old Stone Highway are preserved, this area you can see in blue, we're proposing that we would accept a scenic easement, and we would make that area, which we've since had some more landscape work done. Jim Grimes has done a map. I don't think it made it in, but it's been recorded. I have copies of that map for the boards if they want.
That'd be great.
I can just hand them to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We are working on a landscape plan that would screen close to the house, and then that blue area that you see along the road would be an easement, a scenic easement, that would allow us to save all of the trees. Let me just go one more slide. The bottom slide you see is a composite photo I made of all the trees going from the Springs General Store to Shipyard Lane. That blue area that I'm showing in the scenic easement would preserve all of those trees exactly as is. So the view that you have here from the historic Old Stone Highway would be unchanged. You would not see the house. And at 13'4", nothing's going to rise above it because all our clearing restrictions are set to the back on the project. We would not be able to clear that area. And then additionally, if you go back one slide, let me just get my notes on this. The area between that blue and the cleared area, which is also sort of showing blue, is currently an area planted with an informal mix of cedar trees and native deciduous trees and screening, which is the part of the provision C6D of the Historic Code District for non-historic buildings in the historic district. So that we are leaving that first 150 feet back, complying with the code for non-historic buildings in the historic district, and we're giving back the area that we will not touch, that will sterilize is the term that's used, that it will become a scenic easement with those trees growing. The only thing we would like to control in that first 150 feet is that as native grasslands, it should be cut twice a year, Jim's suggestion. And so we would like to be able to maintain that by just trimming the grass twice a year so that it becomes exactly what the intention of the code for non-historic structures is. This is our thought since we've last spoken about how we can help to mitigate anything going forward. The clients were not interested in any other deeper restrictions that would impinge upon the value of their property. If they ever sold the property, and this is part of our discussion today, and someone else wanted to do something totally different, they would have to come back to the board, and they would have to show what they're doing, get permission for their doing. You would have a chance to review again. And the precedents, we're setting a precedent only for, we don't want to set a precedent. We just want to make a quality house, a low 13-foot house that's part of their whole compound of two houses for them and their family. It's not a spec project where they're planning on living there. They've been living there. He's an oyster farmer. He's doing a million things to be a part of the community. And frankly, we think that these provisions might be just enough to ensure that the historic district is preserved.
Well, thank you. Did you have anything further?
I don't think so. I'm sure there'll be a question.
Okay. Frank and I, as Mr. Pollack has indicated, met a couple of times, once with David and once with Eric also. And I think the problem that we have here is that a building permit was issued, the foundation's in the ground, the house does not conform to the criteria of the Springs Historic District. And what are we going to do now? So I think that
Why doesn't it conform to the story?
because the roof line is flat.
Well, and many other, there are other.
Among a few, that to me is the most,
Can I add one?
Well,
the outstanding piece of difficulty.
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry.
I had a question for you is what are the dimensions of the easement that you're offering?
What we've done is look at the Springs General Store and drew a line across the front of the building of Springs General Store, right across our whole property, so that nowhere along, if you're on that porch, nothing will change from the porch. So that gives us 50 feet at the area closest to the store and 25 feet at the far end. Okay. So it's slightly wedge shaped.
Okay. All right, thanks. I just couldn't tell from
Oh yeah, it's hard to
the
read.
drawing here.
I do want to add one thing.
Sure.
In reading the code for new buildings, the roof form, which is of course our most controversial issue, that we have a flat roof. Number 10 of the items is the roof form of a new building should have a roof form typical of the surrounding buildings. It doesn't say must. It doesn't say may. It said it should have. I think this is one case where we are better serving the historic district by having a lower flat roof.
Right.
And that's that last point I wanted to make.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm just going to read for the board's edification, the guidelines for new construction for the Springs Historic District for principal buildings, which is the code section. But anyway, new buildings should be compatible with the historic buildings and with character of the historic district. The section 255-7-60B of the East Hampton Town Code provides criteria for judging the compatibility of new construction. These criteria, which are amplified below, define the basic design elements which establish the character of the historic district. The design elements of a new building should be in harmony with the same elements of the surrounding historic buildings. Then it goes on to there are several things here. If people want to take a look at this, I have reviewed this extensively, and to my mind, the massing is okay, the height is okay, the scale is okay, the rhythm of the spacing of the building seems okay, the setback and orientation feels okay to me. It's the roof form that doesn't really comply. And here it says roof form. New buildings should have a roof form typical of that of surrounding historic buildings. The roof slope should be within the range established by the historic roofs. Secondary components of some historic buildings have shed roofs as material and architectural details. So those are the criteria that I'm understanding that we are meant to be applying when we review this. And so I would like to hear what the rest of the board has to say. I think Frank and I have looked at this pretty extensively. I don't have a particular, I don't object to this proposal, but somebody might be able to convince me otherwise. So I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say.
Well, it seems to me, being fresh to this, that since there's nothing visual, I mean, I think all those historic guidelines are imagining like a main street where the buildings are alongside of one another, and it's a visual. I mean, since this one is absolutely not seen, I mean, it seems to me that.
Yeah, the Springs Historic District is a little different than just a main street, because really the setting is more important than anything else. And it's the open vistas, the vista to Accabonac Harbor, taking advantage of the pasture.
But you don't see that now. I mean, you don't see that.
Yeah, there is no vista to Accabonac Harbor unless you go behind the Springs General Store.
Unless you go behind.
I'm just telling you what it says in the guidelines.
That's the criteria.
That's the criteria. So it's not a main street with houses and fencing, and it's not like East Hampton Village, so or
any village.
So
no,
it's different.
It's a different circumstance. But
go ahead.
It seems very, benign to me because it doesn't visually impact anything.
Yeah, it's not obtrusive. I would point out in the guidelines that it does say the builders of some of the recent houses within the Springs Historic District. And let's note, this is from 2004. So the guidelines aren't exactly current, but they're still applicable. And those recent houses took advantage of the overgrown pasture landscape and set the new construction back from the road where it would be screened by the native vegetation. And that is what you are suggesting. This practice has worked well in the rural context of this district. But I would point out that it is an overgrown pasture land that could be cleared, except for the scenic easement that you're proposing that would potentially stay in its native state.
I think to require a hip roof on a mid-century building bastardizes everything about it. And so I have no problem with the flat roof. There's a modern contemporary building that's part of this. So I don't think adding another one is a problem. And frankly, that road is full of all sorts of architecture, old, new, modern, contemporary. And so even though this borders the historic district,
it doesn't border.
It's just a fraction in it. Yeah. I agree with Diane. I think, to make them put a hip roof on this it would bastardize the whole project and be worse looking than what they want to build.
I agree with you. I think when we look at the boundaries of the historic district, what I wonder at is why this particular lot was included.
In the
Yes,
And
historic
so
district.
it begs the question to me,
We looked into
whether
that.
it was seen as a vista, as a view shed, and that would be my only reservation about this, is that all that screening that you're proposing, I would propose it at really low, not
Hmm.
these 30-foot hedges that everyone seems to be partial to.
Well, I think that if I remember correctly, Eric, do you remember this discussion? Wasn't this, is this like considered 100% cleared, this land? I mean,
Yeah,
there
it's farmland.
is a big tree on it, but that's just because it's gone,
Native.
it's gone native. So, and I think that is, so I think, yes, it probably was a pasture land with a vista, but there are homes behind it along Harbor
They're tiny,
Harbor Lane.
tiny little
Lane.
homes.
No, yeah, I understand that, but it's not an open vista. You look into the homes, you're not looking, it's not like behind it is this sparkling water or something,
fact-
or even another wooded area. It's houses.
I think the more the point is the open
Yeah,
space.
no, I get it. I get
But
it.
you can't see Accabonac Harbor from anywhere on this road. It's all grown in now.
Right.
So we're talking about something that's not even relevant.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked about, item 10 here, which is the roof form, I was just mentioning it. I agree that it would look terrible on this house. But to me, it's the standout, it's the only thing
Well,
on the
it's a-
checklist that it doesn't really meet. in
But this
terms
is
of the new
a
building. So
a series of bad mistakes that we've ended up in this situation. That's a lot of people made mistakes. So this is what we're left with.
yes, no, I recognize that. And I'm just trying to say, I'm not suggesting we put a hip roof on it. I'm just making the point to the board and anyone else that's paying attention that that's the only criteria that on the checkbox that I don't think we can check for new construction.
I think it's meant to be, it's stated that this is a guideline and it's not a rule for roof form. So this is a guideline meant for making this an appropriate structure for someone who perhaps needs more help with it. I mean, for the record, I think this is the scale of this, the materials, the siting on the lot is harmonious with the Springs Historic District. It may not comply in terms of meeting the guideline of the roof, but what Esperanza brought up earlier in terms of vistas, in terms of it being essentially a low profile building, I think actually works in our favors here. I support the project.
I support it too.
Me too.
I would just like to raise a point about I have 2 points. One is that the Harbor, is it Lane or Drive? Harbor Lane. Oh,
Shipwreck Lane.
Harbor Lane, the little one behind it. Excuse me?
I just wanted to raise the point that I think that the whole parcel of 35 Old Stone is in the historic district. It's not just a piece of it.
No, that's, yeah,
Someone just said a
yeah, no,
sliver.
thank you for making that point because it is the entire parcel is in the Springs Historic District and including the part that abuts the Springs General Store on that building's eastern and northern boundary line. But I have 2 concerns. One is because these approvals run with the land, as you know. So if we approve this, and first of all, let me thank you for offering the easement. I think that helps to mitigate it. I think that's helpful. So thank you. That's an important thing. But if this were to change hands or if you wanted to build a second story on this or something, I'm not sure. I worry about the future impact of what what will be this maritime grassland area and these other trees what the future of that space might be and how that would affect the vista from Old Stone Highway, which is, just a moment, Jim, as soon as I'm done talking, I'm happy to recognize you. How that will affect the vista from Old Stone Highway, which is the historic district. So I'm just trying to, think into the future a little bit, because this site and this particular thing is perfectly, to be honest with you, I have no problem with this, the way it's composed. What I'm worried about is what happens with the
Understood.
next owner, and they want to tear it down, which is a
That's why the
common
easement's so
practice here.
important.
Yeah, and build something really big and remove all these trees and, whatever else. I mean, we'll have jurisdiction over that to a certain degree, but we can't control every aspect of that. So that's my question.
Jim has done some landscape plans for us.
With respect to this maritime grassland, which oddly enough, it fits the criteria of a maritime grassland. Okay, and that is in itself a historic plant community. At one time, this is going back to the 20s, Dot Miller's house, which is not quite across the street from Shipwreck Lane. Old Dottie Miller told me that she could sit on her porch and look down to Accabonac Harbor at that time. Well, they were grazing cattle in there. All of those cedars were mere saplings. This is all of that property, which was Ward Bennett's at one time. This little patch essentially could be described as the last vestige of that grassland community. What made this property part of the historic district, quite honestly, is only the fact that it fronts on the road.
Highway.
Okay, but I think Andrew, his team, and the client did a very good thing here, and it wasn't intentional, of holding that house back. The front yard setback's 40 feet. Okay, they held that house way back on the property, 150 feet, which unintentionally gave the opportunity to preserve this little piece of land. Now, to speak to your point of some future owner, if this is in scenic easement, it's in scenic easement. The language of that scenic easement, the grassland area is proposed.
No, just the first portion that inline.
It's not, it's a 50, it
50
goes,
feet,
it's 50
well-
feet and then narrows down to 25 feet
Yeah,
as
well,
you
it's
come
50,
to the
it's
shipyard
50 feet,
road.
it's 50 feet more than you have right now.
Well, indeed, I do not question that.
And if you look at the way the house is designed, if you look at the layout of the property, there's no real gain in moving towards Springs Fireplace Road, because the whole property is developed sort of focusing between the two houses. So everything's kind of going on behind. We made it a point when we cleared this property to not cut trees down. Okay, we left everything in there very intentionally to try and basically surgically put this house into the property. And coincidentally, we really didn't need to screen the house. When Andrew brought me over there and looked at this, from the higher elevations, we don't need to screen this house. It's the cedars where they've limbed up from the bottom that you can look underneath. We had just added American hollies in there to fill that in. But, life isn't full of absolute, assurances. I think this is pretty darn close to getting that.
Oh, no, I understand. And when we first looked at this, and I haven't said this publicly, but I did congratulate Mr. Pollock and the owner. And obviously it was you who did this, because it's very clear how there are many, I used to be married to a builder, and I know that the style is to clear cut it and then replant, and that was not how this foundation went in. There were a lot of trees up near the foundation. And when I looked at it, I thought that mason must have had a fit, because it was not an easy way to go in and do that foundation work. But, and I acknowledge everything that you're saying, and, well done to everyone in positioning this. But excuse me, if my math is correct, well, no, that's not even right, because it's at an angle. I don't do areas of trapezoids well, but whatever the area of the trapezoid is, That's a generous offer, but it doesn't guarantee that. And I think you raised an important point, Jim, in terms of those maritime grasslands being an historic plant to that area. I think that's
And presently in our town code on a property like this, there's nothing that protects them.
right.
You
Well,
know,
then,
it's, and,
I guess
you know, I
it's
think you
already-
got a fairly generous applicant here
Right.
that is astute enough to recognize the value of this. Okay, you know, in that area, you've got some common milkweed, which is not a special plant in itself, but it is one of the primary host plants for monarch butterflies.
Mhm.
You've got a whole bunch of common sedge. Yeah, right now, you've got the Triodia flavans, the purple top blooming in there. And, you know, some people may look at that and say, well, you know, it's kind of weed lot. You know, for me, it's what I love. You know, it's
Right. Well, I think we agree with you. I think we
Okay.
agree with that assessment. I think but what this is not addressing specifically is just my concern about a second story or someone else. I'm not sure that this, as generous as the easement is, and I am grateful for that, I'm not sure it ensures the vista, the protection of that vista for a future development. And I'm
Well,
hung there. a
Can,
little.
yeah,
can, in terms
it's
of,
virtually impossible for you to basically project down the road. If perhaps this owner or some later owner wanted to do a second floor addition, they would be compelled to come back to you. It is still in the historic district. They would
Right.
be compelled to come back to this board, and you would evaluate that plan at that time on its merits.
Right. I
It's
understand
very
that.
hard to project what somebody may plan to do in the
No, of
future.
cour- of
You know, our
course,
whole town
of
code
course.
is
Yes.
basically doesn't
Yes.
cover that.
I understand.
what is, good.
Go ahead, Frank.
You don't have a drawing with the principal building envelope allowable on the property, do you?
Oh, what the allowable?
What are the principal setbacks of the lot? Do we have that somewhere?
Go back.
I'm just wondering in terms, I mean, to your point, Kathy, about the risk of someone's coming back and there could be a second story. To me, actually, the risk is that, which we don't have in front of us, is that presumably someone could build a house in the principal envelope much closer to Old Stone Highway,
Mhm.
which is much more visible. To
Right.
me, that's the greater risk we
Right.
have
Right.
than building
I-
up.
Well, I said both things. I said either a second story and or a larger building
Okay.
that would encroach on what is now.
Right.
I mean, this owner is protecting that land because he chooses to, but there's nothing to ensure that that land will be protected going forward
What-
apart from this
Except the
easement.
ARB.
What about the clearing
Well-
restrictions?
I don't know.
So where are we on the clearing restrictions? I thought when we met that you had said,
It was my understanding, and I set up the clearing restrictions based on that blue area. That's the maximum clearing restrictions, but we discovered that this was considered a fully cleared lot.
Yeah.
Which I never knew until,
Because it's former pasture land. Like
It used to be
that's
farm.
why.
Right.
Clear as though we were working on a property that was restricted on the clearing.
That was evident. That was evident by what
but
the way
so,
that, yeah.
so that the easement that we're giving back is actually counts because it's area that
It's actually what?
it has a really counts because
Oh, it counts. Yes, I couldn't understand what you're saying.
Theoretically, well, we wouldn't be able to do it with the ARB, but the lot is clearable to the highway if we put the proper
I
houses.
understand. Yeah.
But we'd like to protect that forever too. That's
Right.
what the idea of the easement is. And that may look like not the whole area, but if you look at the map that Jim provided, every one of the very large trees that are right on Old Stone Highway happen inside of that blue area.
Mhm.
We're preserving the real feeling of the Old Stone Highway Historic District. Even with that.
Right. I
restriction.
understand. I'm just thinking 25 feet is not that far. So
right, did you discuss the possibility of doing it 50 feet across the the lot instead of it being trapezoidal? I mean, I realize you're doing it in line with Springs General Store, but in terms of an easement to block the view when you're coming down, is that north from the top of your drawing?
But the
25 feet is not a lot, so you could be able to see into the.
from the top, you're not in the historic district. That's the important thing, is the historic district does begin here.
Yes,
That's
but you're
not the
looking
historic
into the historic district, so that seems to be a point that I'm not
We're
understanding.
not protecting the view of the historic district from the non-historic district. We're protecting the view from the historic district of properties in the historic district.
Well,
So
Well, I don't see
know
that
if it's like a
argument being.
proscenium of a
Yeah, I
stage,
think
you
that's-
know?
that's a question.
I
mean,
think,
it's
I
not
think you have to look at it from,
but we would be.
Well,
we're-
we don't treat it in isolation. I mean, the historic district, is a boundary on a map, but as a person who lives in that community, you're not looking at a boundary on a map. You're going to be coming up to a piece of property that has been undeveloped for as long as you can remember. And now there will be development and, the possibility of future development 25 feet from that is what that's the piece
I
that I'm
understand your
worrying
concern.
about.
Your concern is not, you all sort of support what we're doing. It's what happens with the next owner.
Exactly.
I understand.
And
This is an important
I
discussion.
can't in good conscience say, oh yeah, go ahead and do this. It's a great easement without thinking this part
But
through.
I know, but isn't that the control of the ARB has? That if somebody said, you know what, I want to put a McMansion here, I'll make it traditional, but I want to knock down everything that's here. I want to clear the whole lot. I'm going to go back to the ARB. They're going to have to do the whole process again. And then you'll have the chance to control the situation at that point.
Yeah, I understand your point. And, in a perfect world, that would happen. In a perfect world, you wouldn't be hearing this problem right now, So I think this is a little bit of, we're trying to hedge our bets a little bit. And I wondered if you could just answer Frank's question. Was there any possibility of running that 50 feet parallel to Old Stone Highway rather than to leave that 25 foot? Because to my mind, that's the vista that's most important, is that first is around that corner, because next to the Springs General Store, it's quite densely
Bring it to the
populated.
client. And I think the
Okay.
only thing they said when I talked about ideas like that, or even doing the whole thing, is they didn't want to encumber their property. They thought that the more you do that, they're going to create less value in their property, and they don't want to give it away for the value of their property
Right.
to a future owner.
No, I
which
understand that.
we're
I
all
understand
talking
that.
about.
I own property too. I understand that perspective.
Yeah, more than 10%.
Build a building here, because you got a 40-foot front and you have 2 front yards.
Yeah.
You got Springs Fireplace and you've got.
it's
Shipwreck
Old Stone
Lane.
Highway.
So.
It's Old Stone Highway. Yeah.
We have 3 front yards.
But you're a 40-foot setback on both sides, so you're encumbered as you are on any corner lot to begin with. So in truth, the development that your board's considering is not as much as we might see on another property that wasn't a corner lot.
Yes, I understand that.
If
I understand
the
that.
homeowner agrees to a larger easement, they're not giving up quite as much either.
Okay, well then I would ask you to take it back to your client and see. Does anybody else have anything else at this moment?
Just some detail questions, like are there going to be solar panels?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
No intention to.
Okay.
The other question I had was some screening along Harbor Lane. For the, is there just no room for anything there? Is that what it is?
It's-
Because you're kind of pushed back against the,
Well, the truth is, we could do some, because I thought there wasn't room because of the clearing restriction. I
Mhm.
didn't understand until yesterday. Our lawyer found that there are no clearing restrictions.
okay. Okay, so, because I think it would soften the effect of this development on the neighbors on the, on the north side of Harbor.
But they're not in the historic district. Does that matter? That's not the historic district on that side of the Harbor Lane.
No, but they are used to looking upon the historic district. That's their vista.
On an open field.
Yes, that's their vista.
It's a good neighbor
So-
thing, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm just suggesting to you.
I know,
it would-
we've been also very sensitive, because originally, and if I have to step to the map,
Yeah, sure.
this neighbor, we had the driveway coming this way.
Yeah.
And this neighbor said, do you mind talking to us
Yeah.
about this? Because we don't want you walking out the door.
Yeah.
And we went with this new
No,
driveway.
I think you guys have been doing a great job. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've had the problem, but we're just trying to make everything the best we can here for everyone involved. So if you would just go back to your client, maybe consider some
Do we have to wait another month before we go to the
landscaping.
board?
2 weeks.
Well, I don't know what I don't know
Julie
what
said
our
we can't make any promises
schedule
about
is at this
schedule.
point.
I'm
I know.
thinking about my builder who has been sitting on his thumbs for the last 3 months. And
Yeah, I understand.
Approval today anyway, because we'd have to work out the language of the
Easement.
If that's what's agreeable, and it would be a lot of potential, I would say, on the survey, we'd have
Yes.
to really look into it. And that's just not something that
Can happen quickly. Yeah.
The board to do without consulting
Right.
with, the town attorney and possibly even the town board members.
For the easement, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's not just for this board. So I'm sorry. I understand this is a hugely frustrating
It's been months.
experience.
It's been months.
And I'm sorry for you that it's happened because I think you've been easy to deal with and I appreciate the things you've been offering. If you would go back to your client and ask if we could do 50 feet, like a strip of 50 feet instead of this trapezoid. Excuse me?
And then I think we would be. with
And
you
then,
before
and then a little
probably-
landscaping on Harbor Lane, something
I know it is.
on Harbor Lane.
Jurisdictional powers.
I'm sorry, what?
They have the authority to screen architectural features with vegetation.
From the historic district or anywhere.
Yeah, they can screen
I mean,
architect.
what you're looking at here, guys, is we were addressing the issues relevant to the historic district. There isn't a landscape plan prepared for this whole property yet. And at that time, we certainly would be addressing the screening issues.
Well, that's fine, Jim. We're trying to expedite it. We're trying to expedite it here, trying to give you a little bit of information to go in and then you can do it. I mean, to my mind, that's all we need to do. Get this easement worked out. If you can get us that 50-foot band, that'd be fabulous. You offer some screening on Harbor Lane. Did you have any other details, Frank, that you wanted to offer to the architect while we have him here?
I don't.
Okay, so then I think you've,
Hold the board just so they have something.
Right. For the
Yeah,
benefit
yeah,
of the
let's-
architect
yeah,
and the
let's-
owner, can we just like easement, we have to work out, but poll the board about where
Sure.
everyone feels about
Yep.
the house, the application, their comfort.
Let's do that. Okay, Diane, you're up first. We're polling the board to see what we feel about this, just to give them a general sense of where we are, so they don't come back with an offer and then we vote it down.
Oh, no, I support the project.
Great. Esperanza.
I am not opposed to the project. I emphasize that the open setting, be front of mind.
Thank you. Chip,
I support the project.
Thank you.
Frank.
I support it.
Okay, I think you've got your feedback.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, DAPL LLC, Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-171-2-6. This is Drew here? Bless you.
Oh, when it was the leads for sale.
Okay, Drew's here. Esperanza, this is yours.
This is much better.
Obviously, we could be getting a huge
I
house.
know, I think we're awfully tough. on this guy.
Hello, Drew. This is
Mhm, good.
DAPL LLC before us again. This is 249A Main Street, which is within the Amagansett Historic District. And this application is to replace 2 existing doors and add a 3rd door to the west or rear of the building. All 3 doors will be finished in an indigo color. The color matches the existing door color of the adjacent building on the same property, which has been leased by Grain Surfboards. I just wanted to point out that, this is the building that is referenced in the application for the doors. The building that is adjacent is the J. Mason Schellinger building or house, and that is considered a historic house, even if the architecture integrity of it is sort of compromised. I pulled some pictures just offline off of real estate listings today because I couldn't quite visualize this indigo color that you were referring to with the photographs submitted and the sample submitted of the doors. And so I think there's one picture in there, Will, that we could refer to. Did you get the latest ones that I sent?
There is a picture in the plans that we filed.
Yeah, it wasn't
The cut sheets
helpful.
are not very true.
They're
but there
not
is a
exactly. They're not true.
photograph of the adjacent door that's intended to match. And I think if we could pull that plan up.
It looks much darker in that than I like when the light hits the indigo. Because when I hear indigo, indigo to me is much brighter than what is on that page. To me.
Okay, I think of it more as an ink color, but okay. So on the left-hand side are the cut sheets from the manufacturer, and in the upper right-hand side is the color sample, and they look black. And that was the best that we could get from the manufacturers. The doors themselves and the one that we're matching on the adjacent building is in the lower right-hand corner. And it's the same style of door, and that is the true sample of the color.
It's like navy. to
It
me,
looks
yeah.
really dark. And if you look at the pictures that I saw, and I feel like, if not, I'll pull it up again on my laptop here.
Well,
and
the
send it
intent
to you.
is to match the door across on the adjacent building on the same property. That's the intent.
Which I asked to have that looked into as far as when that was changed.
I don't know.
Yeah, it
And I-
doesn't appear to have ever come before ARB.
I
so-
have a few points I'd like to make.
Sure,
If you
go
want to
ahead.
go first, so. May I speak?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah,
Please. Thank you.
So, thank you. We're here to obtain board approval for 3 doors on a commercial building. 2 are existing, 1 is new at the rear of the building. So the property is known as 249 Main Street, and 249 Main Street consists of 2 buildings. They're both about 100 feet back from the Main Street sidewalk, so they're set way back, and the lawn area remains intact today. So the building that we're talking about today is referred to as 249A, which is the former Body Tech building, or I think it's now as Clear V. So since 1970, the property has been used as a sort of a pedestrian mall with a mix of retail uses.
Excuse me a
And-
minute, Drew. Will, could you pull up that image of the building on the property, please?
Sure.
Yeah, I wish. you
And
could
so it's
pull
been
it.
used as a, mix of retail uses with, with various tenants since 1970. In the building that we're talking about today, underwent a substantial alteration in 1972. It was formerly a garage, and in 1972, it was converted into 2 retail stores. And the architect at the time was Morey and Hollenbeck. And that's basically the building that we're left with today. It really hasn't been updated since the mid 70s. There's been some minor improvements here and there. Different tenants do some things. So there is now an impetus to sort of bring things up to date and adapt to new tenant needs. The property's in CB zone. It's in the historic overlay. It's in the commercial business historical overlay. The building itself is not historic. It's 100 feet from the sidewalk. And the point is that it's well set back from the road. And the front yard has been maintained and will continue to be maintained, which are all consistent with the guidelines for the Amagansett Historical Society. So that's what we're here for, is to
Right.
get approval for the
Thank you.
3 doors.
So
Will, any
So
luck
what's-
getting that
what's the
image?
issue?
What's new?
It takes a second to copy them.
Okay,
So
What's the issue here?
what's new?
the doors.
The doors, they're replacing.
What's
doors.
new and is there any new architecture, or are we just replacing doors in kind?
So there's 2 doors that are being replaced in kind with newer doors with a color. Right now they're white.
Okay, can you point, which ones are being replaced in kind and which ones are
Pull up the plans.
There are
I'll show you.
plans there. that
the
you can look
elevations
at.
maybe?
Yeah.
Would it be easier?
Yeah, there's the elevations. There's
Okay.
filed elevations.
Okay, so the door on the right that's
Sure.
bubbled,
So let's see here.
that one on the
Rear of
right?
Building.
Mhm.
Okay, this is the side of the building. So if you pull up the next elevation, still the front of the building. So this is the rear of the building that currently has no back door. They want to put a back door in. That's the door. That'll be a new door. This is the front of the building. It's currently a 3-panel door. It'll be replaced with the silent door that we're proposing in And then if you go back to the elevations, this side door currently exists and it will be replaced. Right now, it's a white door with a clear glass panel, and it's just be a change of door style and color. So replace 2 doors in kind, store front type doors, and a new door at the rear, which is basically in a very tight alley. That's
And a new color, right?
and a
Yes, changing the
Okay.
color of the
new
door.
color. That's right.
Okay.
Is that central 3-panel door, is that wider than the existing door?
I knew that question was going to happen. I believe the intent is that it's the same or very close to the same.
It just looks a lot. It looks like those 3 panels are equal and
Yeah.
is it, are they fixed side lights and then the central door? But
That's
they're equal sizes?
there's
Because
one
right
door,
now,
one-
it's like a principal door with side lights,
Right.
right?
right. So I didn't actually measure the dimensions of the existing door, but it is a 3-panel door now. The door that goes in there will be 3-panel. It's possible that it'll be slightly larger, but it's not going to be like a new panel. I mean, I don't have.
It'd be extremely expensive to reframe that doorway.
Yeah, I mean, they may have to reframe it somewhat to put this new door, and I don't know. I don't have this an exact. I can't answer it exactly, but it's the intent is it remains as a 3-panel door. It
Right,
becomes
well,
more of a storefront door.
Seems like the color is the issue, right?
Well, I don't know if it's an issue. I would just bring up the fact that the actual historic building that's just opposite this, the Schellinger house does have that color, and I'm trying to look for that color so you can actually see it. It's much brighter than that. Did the manufacturer not have like a paint chip that they
So,
could give you? Because the
all of this was-
photocopy really
all this is
doesn't.
downloaded from the internet these days, and that was the
Yeah.
best available information that we had.
Yeah, we've had that
And
problem with other
To
things
be
too.
honest, we thought
Yeah.
that the photograph of the adjacent door, which the intent is to match it, would be satisfactory to the board in terms of the sample.
Well, I'm looking for that color. I wish you could find that email because then you could pull it up. So no, the only thing that I would say is,
There
yeah,
we go.
just oh, there you go. And more.
Thank-
That's, so I don't know if you can see actually, but well, yeah, if you can see that main door there doesn't look
Oh,
as
yeah,
wide
Yeah,
as what is being proposed.
right.
And also
What about the
these-
lights? on
the
either
divided
side?
lights in that existing door aren't part of this proposal, which
The
there
di-
seems to be a mix here, so it's not exactly unacceptable, but
Right, maybe a little incomplete. So will those lights stay, Drew?
Yes, the
Yeah.
lights are staying.
Okay,
yeah, you're not proposing new lighting. These are the existing lights.
so that would imply the door is
The same width.
the same
It's
width.
got to be
Or
the same
very,
width.
or
Yeah.
very
It's a
similar.
Terrible angle in it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the same or very
Hard to see.
similar,
Yeah, okay.
unless the sconces are coming out. Now, I had a question about the rear door.
Sure.
So do we have a photograph of that? So is
Correct.
there anything there right now?
No,
Okay, so we're also, then are we approving the
Stoop.
deck and the stairs?
well, there'll have to be there will be a stoop to get out of the door.
Okay, are we approving that then? Is that part of this application?
Will there be a handrail and so forth?
Well, you have to be able to walk out of the
Right.
door.
No, I understand. I'm just, taking it
Right.
to the next logical
Yeah.
step. If there's got to be a stoop, then there's got to be likely a
So
handrail.
there would be a rail if it's more than,
Okay, so we don't have that proposal in front of us.
I'm just saying that's part of the application, right? So, I mean,
I guess I didn't.
you
realize
could, you could get approval for the door, but you'd be walking out into, Nothing. So-
What did you say?
The sandwich board sign that's in that picture is
Oh, yeah.
illegal?
Oh,
Yeah,
It used to be on the sidewalk.
used to be on the
Now it's
street.
just-
that. It moves.
Now they've moved it.
Yeah, it's in a different location every time I'm there, so.
Yeah, so you can see that the existing door on this side, which is actually facing Main Street,
right.
Right.
is not, doesn't have divided lights. So
Right.
that's why I don't oppose completely the new doors.
Uh-huh.
There it is. That's the color. It's hard to see
Oh, it
in
is
there.
hard to see. Yeah. It's lighter than, yeah. I
It's
see
lighter
that.
than what you see in that ink.
That
So
better-
just
better
pointing out
image
on
of
the survey,
Yes,
Shade.
the survey would show or should show the proposed landing,
okay.
so I think we're going to need the survey should be updated showing the landing just for the record.
Understood.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's a structure, right? So, okay. And then, so what do we do about the handrail on the stoop, David? We just approve doors and not what leads into and out of the building? I mean, it seems a little piecemeal.
Well, I still would like to find out if there was an approval for the door color on the adjacent building. Because if we're basing this approval on the fact that it's
Oh.
going to match that, I'd like to know that that was actually approved.
Well, that seems fair.
Whose job is
How
that?
can we find that out?
Well, I asked if we could find a resolution and Will could not find anything. So we'd have to wait until
I can try
Julie
to get an answer on
comes,
that.
or maybe you have some.
I don't have one now, but I can try to get one.
No, yeah.
Okay.
But I think that for me, that
Yeah,
would
no, it
be.
makes sense. It's a consistency issue. If we're going to if
Do
we're
you
going to
have-
base it on something else, we ought to know what that other thing is.
The railings that are in that, the dimensions,
Of the rear door railings or the railings that are there now?
the railings that are there now, kind of,
Well, that's another issue, I
Yeah,
think,
so-
right? I mean, they're not,
we should talk about that.
yeah.
Okay, so we met last week.
Right.
To talk about the window.
Mhm.
Sounds like I'll be back again, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
It's nice to see you.
You're a frequent
I
flyer.
am trying to get a copy of what was actually filed with the building department. Last week I reported that apparently one of the owners had a conversation with the building department about what they intended to do to update some of the site work, sidewalk and the patio, et cetera. They did have a building permit for that. I've been told verbally what the building permit says. I'm trying to actually get a copy of it so I can report to you factually firsthand. One of the members was traveling and it's only been a week, so I don't
Right.
have
No,
that
it's
yet. I
okay.
expect to have it shortly though.
All right.
Um,
Well,
so
maybe,
the story behind that, however, as I know that Esperanza is very interested in it. So the original patio for this particular building was red brick and kind of falling apart. And in the 70s, they planted yew bushes around the perimeter of it. And in fact, the planters were part of the patio, and there actually wasn't a rail in the 70s. And the yew bushes started out, nice and tidy. And then as all yew bushes, they kind of grow and become overgrown, and the railroad ties that hold the planter together begin to fall apart. And so they wanted to get rid of the plantings in front of it because it's a storefront, it impedes on the storefront, and they were overgrown and the railroad ties were basically falling apart. You can see that in some of the earlier pictures. So that's what they did. They replaced the patio. They removed the yew bushes because they were overgrown. The footprint, of the planter and the patio remained the same. And because they got rid of the yew bushes, which acted as a rail, they put up a new rail.
yeah, I understand the logic of it. I think it's just,
I'm just trying to give you the.
no, I
what know.
appreciate that. Thank you for the story. It's the backstory on the handrail.
Okay. Is there anything
Okay.
else I can inform you about on that? Or
Pardon?
is there anything else that you need to know on that?
I don't know. I mean, just that I don't think you have approval for it.
That
So,
will have to be.
yeah, that's gonna, and I'm not
It's
sure
just-
that
It's just
um,
awful.
people.
So my understanding, if it's replaced in kind, it doesn't need to become before the board. So I think the issue is, was it replaced in kind? And that's why I need to get what was actually filed relative to what they.
Right. But if there was no handrail, then if the yew bushes served as the
Yeah.
handrail, then I would suggest that it wasn't a replacement in kind.
And there is no brick, so that's not in kind
Right.
either.
So,
Yeah.
so how would the board like to handle that? Should we bundle that with this application? or
It works
submit
for
it
me. I mean, anything that would streamline it for all of us, I
Yeah.
think would make sense for you too. Just, try to get
Are you
as much of this together as you can. What do you
also
think,
going to
David?
include the at the next to Astros as well? Because I believe this was on the same building permit.
I believe it was, yeah.
That should be part of the application as well. The patio.
Similar, they had a,
Okay.
in the 70s, the Astro area patio had no
Mm.
plantings, and then sometime in
Right.
the 80s,
Right.
same situation where they put in the planters, it became overgrown, they began to
Okay.
fall apart. So when they went to do an update, they left.
That one as well was, as we talked about, was not a replacement in kind because it used to be screened by vegetation, which was removed. And then it appears
Yeah.
that the
It's still an interpretation,
patio was
isn't it?
extended a little bit further into the courtyard.
I understand, and I take everything you just said, but you also have to realize that in the 70s, there was no screening, but I understand.
Yeah,
the
it was a
purpose
little
of the
more
board.
free form. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's a pretty.
Well, I would suggest to you to
Small
just go,
town.
we'll send you a follow-up letter. We'll make note of the few things just as a general note, not with respect to this particular application, but what else we think you might need to receive approval for, and then maybe you can package it all and we'll work with you on that.
There might not have been screening in the 70s, but that doesn't mean that the surface of the patio was, that the width would have still been the same.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean it was wider then.
So, I looked at the survey and so we're probably talking about, there might be an 18 inch difference.
Okay.
Which is still 18 inches.
All right. Right. Well, we'll find that out, right?
Okay.
And, yeah.
I know that to be true because I've seen.
Oh, no, I don't suspect that you aren't correct. I just feel like we're not reviewing that right at this moment. So let's save that for the next time if we can.
Thank you.
Because we were only at application 3 and I don't know what time it is. So
It's fine.
anyway,
It's fine.
thanks a lot,
Be back.
Drew.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. All right. So our next application is El Turco, which Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-161-04-9, which
Mine.
was postponed,
This postponed, sorry.
Oh,
right,
great.
withdrawn by the applicant.
Oh, withdrawn.
Yes, so we're skipping into fences, walls, gates, and berms, which feels like a chant to me. Jody and Scott Markoff, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-7-20.2.
I thought center cuts was,
Oh, I beg your pardon. I forgot about center cuts.
And-
Lordy,
and
after
Jean's
all
right
that.
here.
Forgive me,
And we
Mr.
don't
Markoff.
You want the new
Yeah, no,
tax map
I,
number? Do
Center
you have
cuts was
that?
added.
Don't,
Hold on a second.
I did, I don't know. I have like 16 agendas here.
We just need one
Second.
agenda that we have to stick
Was
with.
this on the agenda, Matt Lowndes at LTV?
It was a revised agenda.
There was a revised agenda.
What would you like me to
so add
name this in the title?
Center cuts, CENTER, second word, CUTS.
Thank you.
Yeah, County Tax Map number 300-197-2-18. Thank you, Esperanza. Hi.
hi,
How are you?
hello.
Thanks for having us back again this week. to
Sure. Okay.
Resolve this. So last week, we ended on the size. You wanted to approve the pan sign, but we weren't sure what the signs on the left and the right were. So when I left the meeting, went over there and they measured it for me. And we were proposing a 12 by 2 sign.
Right.
The signs that are actually up there are 13 by 18 inches high. So 13 by 1.5.
You know,
So did go back to him and ask him to take the sign from 2 feet down to 1.5,
Perfect.
which he is fine to do.
Perfect. I think that sounds great.
So we'll leave it at the 12.
I'm so
by-
glad in a way because, I thought I questioned, I knew that wasn't 2 feet.
Yeah.
I just knew it. So anyway, that gives you more square feet anyway to
That's right,
do for the
because then
window
we're-
signs.
We'll be back.
For other signage.
Street sign, but yes.
Okay.
So they'll leave it at the 12 instead of 2. They'll bring it down to 1.5.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
that sounds great.
We're good
So
with that
Diane, do you
then?
want to make a motion?
So,
Wait, are we approving?
So 18
Yeah,
inches
this-
by
this
12
sign.
feet.
yes.
Hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Are we approving the other signs or not?
No,
No,
just this
Just
one.
that one.
don't have jurisdiction.
Or you have
This
enough
application.
information to?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry.
So I make a motion that we accept the application with the understanding that the maximum height of the new sign will be 18 inches,
Inches, correct.
which is compatible with the neighboring signs.
Great. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, good to
Okay,
go.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Phew, that felt efficient.
Finally. Yeah.
Of course, it was.
Okay, now fences, walls, gates, and berms. Jody and Scott Markoff, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-7-20.2. Good evening. Are you Mr. Markoff?
No, I'm Brian Lester, Carbon and Lester.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Actually, I knew that. I don't know what happened to my brain just there.
Jet lag.
Yeah, jet lag. It's true. I'm jet lag.
And I'm looking.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Diane's.
Yes. This is an application for a gate on Gansett Lane, which is off of Coma Lane. This is the third time that we have reviewed an application for this gate. They really want this gate. Why they want it or need it remains a mystery to me, but they have now proposed a gate that is much more transparent than anything they have offered before. They have the initial gate was almost solid and it was at 6 feet. Now they are proposing in this third application a 5-foot high gate with 1.5-inch bars at 3 inches apart. So it's 2/3 transparent, basically. They've made a very thorough application with comparisons and photos to prove its harmony with the neighborhood, the fact that you can't really see it because of the very high hedges. And of course, I wonder why they just didn't cut it down to 4 feet and make whatever gate they want, but it seems they want this 5-foot gate. And since it is so transparent at this point, we have drawings. I didn't take any new pictures because we've looked at and they have provided some very, very clear and interesting pictures of the neighborhood and what they're proposing. So there's one of the bars are 1.5 inches and the open spaces are 3 inches. So it's sort of 2/3 transparent.
So the darker, what we see on the screen as the shaded area is actually the
transparent,
the empty spaces.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would be inclined.
How many feet off the road is this?
20 feet,
Just exactly 20 feet?
20 feet off the road.
I don't know if anybody, this is a beautiful Gansett Lane, has almost no fencing, no gates. It's very open. It's very rural.
Do you have the pictures, Will? Any pictures?
Not new pictures.
But the old
Any
pictures,
pictures.
but nothing has changed from, so I just didn't take.
Yeah, we submitted pictures with our latest application showing
They have submitted.
the hedge and that you can't see it from, unless you're immediately across the street from the driveway.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Are there any other gates on Gansett Lane?
No.
Find any legal gates?
I don't care if it's,
No, I think there are none. It's very, very open, but there are a few high hedges, of which these people, they want the high hedge and the gate.
I want to say you go,
You can see
This is the driveway
that's
entrance?
Yeah, that's it.
And where that vehicle is?
it's 20 feet
20 feet.
back of that vehicle.
Is this gate hinge or does it slide?
It's slide.
Is that what we're seeing in that drawing? I can't quite figure out what those panels are to the right of the drawing. Is that
I
the
think
frame?
that's the mechanism.
The
yeah.
framing, okay.
my stance on this is I'm pretty firm. I don't think it's appropriate for the neighborhood. I mean, I suppose they could build a 4-foot gate right of way, but I don't like the idea of setting a precedent in this neighborhood of Amagansett. Given the scale of the neighborhood, I mean, that is one of the wonderful things about this neighborhood between
6 feet.
is it Bluff Drive and the highway. Those lanes are open and it's a wonderful community because it's open and largely not gated. And particularly Gansett Lane is not as open as the other streets, like Hedges, Minecoma.
No, it's a sub street.
I object to this gate. I don't.
I think it's ridiculous too.
Well, it looks like a short stubby driveway too.
The fact of the matter is this is hedged and you wouldn't be able to see it as you go down the road unless you're immediately across the street from it. While you're talking about the lanes, this board has the ARB approved in 2019 and 2020, 2 6-foot gates on Meeting House Lane, which is part of this same area between Montauk Highway and Bluff Road.
That was
one being even more opaque, both being more opaque than what we're doing here and more open to the site. This one is set back off the road, blocked by hedges, more open and lower than what's previously improved within the same
I
neighborhood.
mean, 20 feet is not a setback. That's like from that column to
That's
the
a
door.
minimum requirement. It's the minimum requirement that it's set
Very
back.
tight.
20
The
feet.
scale of those lots is tighter on Gansett Lane than
Yes.
it is on the other streets.
We don't want to approve this gate, so why don't they just make it 4 feet so they don't need our approval?
They're asking for the approval of the 5-foot gate.
Well, it says 6 foot.
House, Brian, is that
Does it?
property
Let's
on
read
Meeting
that.
House, is that
I thought it said
have
6.
hedge that is that imposing?
Yeah, if you look at the one, if you pull,
The one they drew in.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters what's on Meeting House.
Oh, you know what? I looked at the wrong one, I guess. This is the
that's
old
my
one.
flat filing.
This is Gansett.
This is Gansett, and it is an offshoot. There's a little
Yeah.
road called Garden Way off of Me and Coma, and it's parallel to Me and Coma.
Well, I don't find that it's harmonious with the neighborhood either.
So why don't we
I
just,
think everybody's objecting to this.
let's vote her.
Yeah.
Kathy.
Yeah.
Would you like
Call the
first
board
to-
first, or do you want to vote on it?
I think I have. I think I know
Yeah.
what the answer is, and then I'll
Okay.
go the next step.
Okay.
Okay, so do we need to take a vote or do you want to just come back?
I think it's clear.
Look, you made it clear that you're not going to approve any gate on this property unless I'm mishearing what you're saying. It's been called
don't want to.
ridiculous. It's been called, so I'll take that to the next area that has to go, if that's where I have to
Well,
go.
I would ask that Diane, Member Benson, that you kind of couch that you focus your comments on the harmony and the
Well,
scale of the neighborhood, and
Well,
that you
because
refrain from.
this would be the first gate. This would be the first gate. And it's a very protected, it's a very rural street, and it's, I mean, absolutely, it would, and the problem is, if they put this gate in, maybe there's somebody else that has an inkling for something and it encourages them. I mean, it's precedent setting.
But the precedent is if there's a hedge that's fully blocking this gate.
We understand that.
Not if you have to drive through the driveway. You're going to see the width of the driveway.
So the one party to using the house will see their gate or whoever, but you can't see it. It's not impacting the vista of the road because you can't see it unless you're across from the driveway.
Well, so the neighbor across the street has to look at it.
Is there a house that's right across and whatnot, then we don't have an objection of a neighbor here. But
I think that, yeah, let's just wrap this up a little bit. I don't mean to, do you have anything further you'd like to add, Mr. Lester? Okay. So I think in the interest of the harmonious assurance, the assurance of harmony with the rural character of the community, that we're rejecting this proposal at this point.
I think you need to vote first before it's.
I understand, and you're welcome to come back with another proposal. So I think maybe we should just vote on this.
Yes.
And so Diane, do you want to make a motion to deny it as submitted?
Yes, I make a motion that we deny this application for a gate at 39 Gansett Lane.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, none opposed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, Kurt and Carrie Nelson, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-141-1-10.4.
Okay.
Are you Mr. Nelson?
So I'm Patrick Lockwood, the Story Company.
Oh, sorry, Patrick
Lockwood,
Lockwood?
Patrick.
Lockwood Pools.
Oh,
Okay.
welcome, Mr. Lockwood.
Thank you.
All right, now this is yours, Diane.
Yes,
you
this
have
is
the
mine. This is,
Gate Bonanza.
this is 25 Wooded Oak Lane. And Wooded Oak Lane, I have to give a big bravo to all the residents of Wooded Oak Lane.
Well, that's nice.
Because there are no gates, there are no fences
Very wooded
visible.
and oaky.
Wooded Oak Lane is, I think they're all half-acre properties. And everybody, the whole neighborhood has determined that they would have foresty, rural, wooded front lawns.
Excellent.
And then almost everyone has built a fence behind the facade of their houses and fenced in the quarter acre behind the house. And this is what this application is for and what these people want to do. What they're asking for an approval now is a very benign 8-foot wire fence behind the facade of the house, which serves also as their pool enclosure. And from what I could see and where I stopped, it seems to me that almost every house on this wooded oak lane, which is quite long, has is in total harmony with this approach.
How nice. So this is behind starts behind
Yeah,
the facade of the house?
Yes, this starts behind the facade of the house. And as you can see, it's it's sort of an agricultural fence, and behind the facade, there are just wires. And then it goes to 8 feet, and so does their neighbors on either side. And almost everybody I could see, they have it's a totally harmonic lane.
Great. Just a question though, this
What you're
serves as
seeing
deer
here-
fencing? I mean, this serves
This
as
is in
pool
the-
fencing?
This is the front left of the house here. So this is actually the front 4-foot fence and the left gate that you're seeing here. And then there's some landscaping wire on top just to stop anything from jumping over.
That's why the pole
That's
is
what you're seeing.
so
The
tall.
pole is there.
And then the fencing is actually 2x2 for the first.
Oh,
4
I see
feet,
it now. Yes.
Wrapping the swimming pool. And then from the 4-foot to the 8-foot section is actually 2x4
Yes.
to allow the birds and things to fly through. And then the poles are only 8 foot every other pole
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
to make the top less obtrusive.
Yes.
Well
It-
done.
It seems that it's a real neighborhood effort.
That's
and
so
it's-
great.
I think it's very nice.
And I presume this is, it's the rear yard, so.
And it's the rear yard, totally the
Right.
rear yard.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Did we need to look at the survey or we're all good?
We did.
I think we,
I looked carefully at the survey. Nothing seems to be off the
okay.
property.
No, we went through C of O and everything, and the only issue that came up is.
Well, you
come
want to pull the survey up, please?
Architectural review for the 8 foot.
And these, the pedestrian gates are just at like 5 or 6 feet or?
I think they're.
They're
yes,
4
I think
foot
they're
actually,
4.
and
Yeah,
then
it
they
says
actually
4 foot
match
on
the facade of the house, the front of the house.
Okay.
It's all that
There's a survey.
tongue and groove cedar. So it just kind of continued off the wing of the house.
It's good. Okay. All right. Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would love to make a motion to approve this application as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good to go.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Excuse me, Kathy.
Yes.
I think that Tayini is going to be postponed.
I beg your
Tayani?
pardon?
For
Tayani?
extension of time?
Yeah, she's just said that all of Montauk just lost power.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, that she doesn't have.
A way to get on the Zoom.
Well, she's gonna try to do it on her cell phone, but if she doesn't get through, that it's
Okay.
gonna,
A lot of time when power's out, there's cell service problems too.
Yeah.
I briefly had a Deborah Cherone on the waiting room, but
Right.
she just dropped.
Yeah.
Right, that's who
That
we're
would be why.
speaking of. Yes, she's in Montauk and.
Deborah, if you are still listening or watching, please feel free to call back in. I will let you in.
Okay, great.
She just texted directly.
All right, well, that's good. Thanks for that bit of information. Okay, so next up is Anne Marie Carcass, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-96-4-16.2. Is Ms. Carcass our representative here? Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And you?
So my name's Kathleen Forehand. I'm here on behalf of Anna Marie Carcass. if you can hear
Okay,
me
could you
all right.
just spell your last name for us, please?
Forhan as in
Okay.
Nancy.
Gotcha.
So I'm sure you know there was a little bit of back and forth about trying to get in compliance with the rules for the fencing in the front of the property.
Right.
So we've now made the 6-foot fence down to the 4 feet.
I'm just going to interrupt you one second,
Sure.
okay? We call your name to make sure that there's someone present so we can discuss the application.
Just me.
But our protocol is to let the board member go first, and then if you have
sure.
anything to add, we'll ask you to
Sure.
do that, okay?
Of course.
Okay, so Frank, this is yours.
So this is an application for fencing at a house in Springs located between Springs Fireplace Road and Accabonac Road. There's a pool in the front yard and there's extensive fencing running all around the property except at the driveway entrance. Nearly all of the fencing, when reviewed at our June 9th meeting, was not compliant. Most of the fencing running around the property is at or above 8 feet high. Following our June 9th meeting, we sent the applicant a letter requesting an updated survey, as well as several other changes to the property before coming back to the board for review again. None of the changes we requested have been made, including providing the new survey, so I'm not sure why this merits our review today. The only change I observed yesterday at the property was the stockade fence on the front property line was lowered from 6 feet to 4 feet, but the posts still remain at 6 feet, and there is wire fencing that now extends above this 4-foot fence to 8 feet high. I'm not sure why the applicant made the modification to the fence, as we made it clear in our follow-up letter that it appeared this fence was in the town right of way, which is not permitted. I would recommend we not review this application today until the applicant comes back with the changes we requested in our follow-up letter.
Okay. So I'm not sure if you were aware of the letter that we sent, which had this was sent to Anne Marie Carcass. Are you related to her or?
Sam, I'm her daughter-in-law.
Okay. So she had this list of things, and that's what was supposed to happen before we looked at the application again.
Okay.
So I guess one bit of this has been done, but the rest of it needs to be done, including a new survey. And we are unable to approve anything that's in the town right of way. We can only approve things that are on your property.
Okay.
Part of the fence is not on your property, so we can't approve that.
Okay. So
no matter
how
what height
will
it
we
is.
go about dealing with this portion that is not on our property? So you can see from this angle, that's primarily not us. That portion of the fence, see on the left-hand side?
What do you mean, not us? Who is it?
I don't have my glasses on, so it's a little.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
There's another property which still has, so we have
So
changed.
The
our
fence does
portion of
not
the
belong to you? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Okay, well then you'll need the survey to indicate that.
Okay,
Because the
so
survey you submitted, I guess, showed that as part of your property.
I mean, there's a little piece that's sticking out, maybe a couple of inches, but in the corner there,
Mhm.
I do see that now. I mean, it's very, very subtle, but I mean, so that's part of it, but there's a lot of fencing on the property, and we frankly I would recommend Mike going back and looking at the two things. One is going back and looking at the video replay of this meeting, because a lot of comments were made that we just don't have time to go through every section of the fence and explain it.
Of course.
And then you could go to the building department between 3 and 4 every day and ask them, and they'll help you through and say that the maximum height is that allowable is this on this, the maximum allowable at this front is here. It has to be located out of the easement. They can
Yes, sir,
point that
but
out.
There are criteria.
It's my understanding that we have moved the fence from that easement to now be in compliance, as well as we were told that any mesh fencing above that 4 feet would be okay as deer fencing.
We didn't
Our
say that.
understanding that we were in compliance.
Who told you that? That's not necessarily, that's not true. So that appears to be well above.
If you go to the last page, Will,
Yeah.
that there's a photo from the last day. And keep going.
And those are old photos.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Those are old photos. There's a new photo. The only change that I see on this property is there. So, and it's almost like there's a little berm that was built underneath it. I mean, the berm. I'm sorry, but there's so many things wrong with the fences on this property.
Right.
So anyway, to your point, there are three things that are wrong with this fence. One is it's too close to the street. It doesn't appear that I remember going there and measuring it, that it doesn't appear to have moved back from the street. So
It's at 10 feet. It was at 9.5, 9. They reported it to us, and then
Okay.
we moved it back to 10.
You moved it back
there's a
6 inches.
10-foot wide easement.
Survey it says 10 feet.
Is that 10 feet from the street or 10 feet from the property line?
Right.
That's a question for the surveyor.
That's the surveyor has
not
to
for
determine that.
us.
Right. That has to be
Um,
done by a licensed surveyor.
Right.
I think your best bet is we'll get you a copy of this follow-up letter, take it and the present survey to the building department and have them help you work it out. Okay,
Right.
and then you can come back to us once you have a new survey and these adjustments have been made.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
we're basically doing what we said we weren't going to do.
Yeah, let's not review all the.
It's very
I'm sorry,
complicated.
but
Yeah.
just go back, look at the letter, take the letter to the building department, review the survey with them, and they'll tell you what's permissible, what's not.
Yeah. David, did you have something?
Yeah. Are these things stumps that are there or what in the right of way? I saw
I
in
don't
the
know, my
other
glasses.
photos, there was a number of those that were,
I'd have to go look at
what
it.
is, yeah, the previous ones, so they almost look like they're put there to stop people from parking, which
Right.
is something that should be removed.
Right.
As far as I know, oh, okay. As far as I know, it's always been on the property.
It's what's not on your property is the thing.
That-
I
yeah,
think
that's
it's just
the
a
town
tree
right of
stump.
way.
So there's a whole row of them. If you look back at the
Yeah,
the
I
other
saw,
photos, so they
yeah.
look.
Yeah. Yeah, it may have been that pine beetle thing too, some of that, there are a lot of stumps around town for that
No,
reason.
well, the one's lying down.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
okay.
say that's
Oh,
like-
oh,
that's
I
not
see.
too-
Okay.
It seems like that's something
All right.
put there to stop people from parking.
Okay.
on the shoulder.
We'll send that, if you're not, if, maybe ask your mom about this letter, or if you
Sure.
can call Julie at the office and leave your email, and we'll send, if you're going to take care of this for her, we're happy to send you that letter, but we have to go all the way back to square one here. and we can't
Understood,
do it all
yes.
Tonight, okay? All right,
Understood.
thank
Okay.
you. Okay, next,
Where do we get a particular question? Where are we going to get a copy of that?
Of the
as
letter?
soon as you provide an email address to the secretary of the ARB, and then we can forward it to you. Okay, you're welcome.
The email address is on the website of the town.
Yeah, you can, or you can call and leave a message.
They
for
should
her.
call.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, extensions of time. Montauk Historical Society Lighthouse, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-15-1-9. Chip, this is yours.
This is an extension of time requested by the Montauk Historical Society for a shed that was approved by this board in January 2015, adjacent to the lighthouse. The shed is a service building below the lighthouse used for storage. It is about the size of a 3-car garage, architecturally appropriate for the site, and measures 25 feet by 30 feet. The siding is a gray board and batten. There's electric in the building. Will, can we pull up the pictures, please?
For the lighthouse?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, it's in a file.
It's in the file.
It's a lighthouse, the shed file, and there's a lighthouse.
Number 8, Montauk Lighthouse.
I have number 7.
Actually, no, it's number 8 because we added some.
Oh, that's right. No, it's 8. It's 8. Yes, it is. It's 8 because gosh,
It's so confusing.
it is.
Yeah, our file for that is empty. Yeah, I have it.
Okay, well, that's too bad.
Okay, well, it's- the file's empty?
Yeah. Digital, the folder on the network.
Oh, yeah.
So Julie didn't load it up or?
No.
Okay, so it's fine. So there's electric in the building with 3 gooseneck dark sky compliant exterior light fixtures over two doorways. The society seeks to close out this application and obtain a C of O. I see no reason not to approve it. I can show the board my picture if that would make them more comfortable.
When does ours expire? If we extended, when does it expire?
They're going
I
for their
think it's-
CO.
They're
so
going to do
it's
the whole
right
thing
now.
here.
It's done,
Okay.
If
I
you have
think.
pictures and you can email them to Will.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
got
would be
my,
good.
Outlook here.
Okay, I'm just going to email you
And
one.
also, I'm sorry, I don't know if you mentioned Chair Cunningham, but there's also a CO later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that.
Go right to it. That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
yeah. Okay. Yep.
So Will, is the Architecture Review Board? What's the
It's-
email address?
W Highland at
At
ehamptonny.gov.
W Highland,
Yeah.
WHY.
HYLAND at EH Hampton,
Government.
Hampton,
Government.
not 2 H's, just that's it, HAMP.
Here.
Yep. Oh, you got them.
Okay, Will.
Great.
Usually it takes like a minute or two, so. hang on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Do have stuff in the Playhouse, the next one.
Yeah, we do have the next one. Yeah, I
Right.
checked.
Well, that's sort of a no-brainer, that one. We could just go to the next one and we're waiting if you want. Is that taking some time?
I got them.
Okay, great. Calls me. Yeah. Can never be when I'm available.
5 o'clock rush.
Really. Maybe I'll just skip ahead to Montauk
Oh, no, I
Playhouse.
got it right here.
Okay.
You say so.
It's the rain. It's the rain is making everything slower. We need the rain so desperately. I wish it wasn't.
All right, here we go.
Ah.
Okay, so this is one of a couple photos. So the building we we're talking about is the one in the foreground. It's gray board and batten. It's perpendicular to another storage shed. It's about the size of a 3-car garage. It fits into the landscape beautifully.
So it's a vertical board?
Yes. So,
Okay.
I see no reason not to approve this extension of time for the Montauk Historical Society and their shed.
Okay, so we need to vote on, make a motion, and then we'll skip to the C of O, I think, right?
Okay.
And we'll get everything done. at
So I
once.
make a motion to approve this application as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Okay, so the extension of time is granted, and we're going to go right to the certificate of occupancy, which is out of order on the agenda, but it's number 13, Montauk Historical Society Lighthouse, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-15-1-9.
So Will, you have this, you have these.
She uploaded the photos.
Okay, so this is a request to obtain a C of O for this. Oh, wait. This is an unrelated request to the first one. This is to obtain a C of O for wireless antennas installed on the fire central station, on the fire control station immediately adjacent to the Montauk Lighthouse. There are 3 antennas on 3 sides of the building, so a total of 9 antennas. They are white. The building is painted white. The antennas comply with our resolution of May 2018.
It's not those photographs, though. It's a different set of.
Resolution of 2018 or 15?
This is 2018.
Julie
Oh,
did
there
not
are
upload these
2.
ones.
I see.
It's so confusing.
Wait, 1 moment, because you skipped one. There is a certificate of occupancy for the 2015 resolution for
Right.
that barn or
Yes.
shed.
Yes,
CO matters. in the
Right.
same location.
yes.
I understand, but now we're talking about the singular wireless. We have to go in order. So that's the next one, which is
I have no idea what you're
Here.
talking about.
We seem to have 2.
She changed this agenda so many times.
no,
It's
this
so
is my
confusing.
original agenda. So
No,
I'm just
no.
saying.
Here, this is the one we're talking about now.
Exactly.
And then the wireless.
No, this is the shed.
Correct.
This is the
Yeah, but it's
shed.
for
The shed,
CO.
Right.
And this is the wireless.
Right, but the one I just read in is the former page. I
Oh.
read this one in, and this is the one we're discussing.
No, you told me to
Which
move on to the next one. We can come back to. It doesn't matter. What do
Okay.
you want to, whatever you
All
want to
right.
do is
We
fine.
need to do the CO for the shed.
But he didn't have the, okay, so,
Yeah, it's fine.
so I said that. I said, well, I make a motion to approve the application.
No, we approved the
For the
extension of time.
Now we're doing the CO.
So we
Oh, you're going to
We
do
were
all
just
3
trying
of
to-
them at the
We
same
were
time.
trying to get everything done
Okay,
in the same
okay.
applicant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to be clear, the shed and barn has an extension of time and the CO.
Yes.
And then the cell installation on the fire control tower is just the CO.
Right. So,
Exactly.
yes. We're good with that?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, okay. So we're,
approved.
yeah, so, okay. So we need a motion
Aye.
to approve the certificate of occupancy for the shed.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the certificate of occupancy for the shed storage building as pictured and we're reviewing right now.
Thank you, Chip. May I have a second?
Instruct
Second.
staff.
See,
May I have we need to vote. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Aye.
All righty. So we've approved that. Now, I thought as a courtesy, to the applicants. We could just go to
Yes,
and do
of
the
course.
wireless also, which is item number 14. Montauk Historical Society Lighthouse, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-15-1.9. Care of New Singular Wireless, John Huber.
Sorry.
He's not here. I know.
So
Mr.
Will, do you have the pictures of these antennas?
I do not have the picture.
Oh, man.
Just for
Okay.
CO, they don't usually show each other.
It was just on the planning board.
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously, this was from the planning board, that's all wireless installation.
Like-
Inspection of the site and signed off on it. It basically was a number of panel antennas that were mounted flush to the fire control tower behind the actual lighthouse. Painted the same color as the fire control tower. So, the planning board has signed off on it. Obviously, that doesn't mean.
Do we have pictures?
I'm sending him a picture right now.
Pictures would be great because that, I think, picture paints 1,000 words on this one. I thought we'll have this.
Okay, well, it should come through shortly. So,
Okay.
so Julie never loaded up these photos because she
Apparently
was sick?
not. I don't know. I can't answer. I don't know when she got them. Everybody
Yeah.
sends them at different times, so I don't know where she was in the universe when they
Okay.
arrived. And she's usually really good at that. So.
Yes, she is good.
Okay, so we're waiting again on those photos.
We're waiting on the antennas, yes.
It does get, I will say,
Well, when one applicant submits multiple applications, it is very crazy.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, I somehow
I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify. Do I have the right topic up? I'm a little confused.
You do.
No, you're correct. You're
Okay.
exactly right.
Thank you.
Welcome to
Eric, you felt that it matched the
confusion.
resolution?
All right, so we're just waiting for photos in order to approve
Takes a second to save them.
the CO. Okay. No.
Okay, so this is, that's the fire control station in the foreground, the shorter building. This is the fire control tower. It's white. The antennas were requested to be white. They are. There's 3 on one side, there's 3 on another side, there's 3 on another side, and then one side facing the lighthouse, which you see on the left is blank.
Are they those little rectangular
Yes,
pieces
yes,
at the
up
top?
top, yeah. It's pretty subtle. You don't,
And there's no lighting with that, right?
no.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And would you like to make a motion?
Yes, so I make a motion, or is this for a certificate of occupancy?
Yes, it is.
I make a motion to inform staff that they should inform the building department that this application is ready for a certificate of occupancy.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Montauk Lighthouse, you're ready to go. All right, we're on now to Montauk Playhouse. Yes, I was just going to say. Kara Scott DiBernardino. I don't know if that's spelled correctly, unless it's Berardino. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-12-2-15. This one's mine. This one is for an extension of time for the Montauk Playhouse Community Center. There's been no change to the design. Okay. Oh, I beg your pardon. Hello, how are you? Could you just identify yourself, please?
Scott Berardino, architect.
So it is Berardino? No.
Berardino.
Okay,
yes.
great. All right, thank you. My recommendation was to grant the extension of time. It's been approved. It was approved in 2019. There's no change to this, and I'd also like to recommend that we waive the fee, as this is a town project. Does anybody have any questions? Did you want to add anything, Mr. Berardino?
No.
D. Berardino. D. Berardino? Yes, okay. Okay, are we good? Then I'd like to move that we accept this, approve this extension of time as submitted and waive the fee for the applicant. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good to go.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. We love the Montauk Playhouse. Yeah, I know, really. And now I don't even really know where we are. Now, Tayani has been postponed, right?
Do we have an update?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so Andrew Tayani Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-80-10-7 has been postponed at the request of the applicant. And now we're on to the easy part of the agenda.
All right.
Yeah, I would just say that's not their fault, this one.
Oh, no, of course not. No. Hey, listen, acts of God, that happens.
Transformer blew the Montauk.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh,
That was
wow.
quite a storm.
Wowie. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. Okay, so Pamela Mahoney, onto agricultural overlay, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-02-21. Frank, this is yours. Is Mr. Savarese here?
Yes, he is.
Okay, great.
I see him back there.
Okay, good.
Lewis?
Okay.
Okay. Will, do you want to bring up the photos? Just to refresh everybody with this.
Did you send me photos for this one?
Former ones.
Former photos. Uh-oh. Do you have access to those?
Yeah.
Okay. It would be from,
Which meeting?
let's see what
July
meeting was that.
28th, thereabouts.
Yeah, last time was July 28th that we looked at it.
There are no photos in that folder. It was the first time. Let me see. It was June 23rd. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, I think I did this one.
June 23rd.
June 23rd.
Okay, I'll begin. So this application has come before this board twice this year on June 23rd and July 28th. Both times we followed up with requests for additional information. To remind everyone, this is a modest cottage on Beach Lane in Wainscott, where the applicant has requested the following changes. Raise the height of the house to comply with FEMA coastal flood zone requirements. Currently, the house is FEMA non-compliant. Put in a concrete foundation and basement with a walkout at the rear of the house. Renovate the house, including raising the roof ridge and simplifying the rear side roof line to create living space for an upper level. At our last board meeting, we requested the applicant submit a new survey showing the proposed scope of work and a revised site plan showing topographic contours to show how proposed grading would work with raising the height of the house. The surveys show the existing first floor elevation is 14 feet and the proposed first floor to be 17.9 feet or 17 feet 11 inches. So the applicant is proposing to raise the first floor 3 feet 11 inches, which is not insubstantial. The applicant should be aware that this is the first time the board has gotten a true number of what the finished floor will be. So this is the first time we're discussing what the true elevation will be. In the previous hearing, we discussed the floor being at 17 feet, but that's the foundation wall height and not the finished floor height. The distinction is important because when you're raising a house about 4 feet on flat grade, the question is how you make the house meet grade in an appropriate manner. This is why we had gone back and asked the applicant to submit a grading plan. The proposed grading shows, maybe you can bring up the new survey for this part. The proposed grading shows the applicant using presumably fill from the foundation excavation to create a 3-foot graded hill of sorts grading up to the house. So there you can see it there. And there's the foundation or the retaining wall to the
a little
north.
more, please.
Yeah. Our GIS mapping indicates this property sits in an AE14 FEMA flood zone. This designation dictates the minimum elevations at which the house can be to be compliant. If my information is correct, the bottom of the first floor structural framing needs to be 2 feet above elevation 14 feet, which would be 16 feet. This would mean the typical wood floor framing the floor would not need to be more than about 17 feet, it seems. So if the applicant could please comment on why the proposed finished floor is at elevation 17 feet 11 inches, or about 23, what seems to be 23 inches above the minimum floor structure, that would be helpful to the board.
I believe the flood zone is 15.
15.
And
okay.
you have to be 2 above that,
Right.
which is why they
That would be
wanted it at 17.
Okay, so, okay, our own mapping showed it 14, but
Possible 15.
It's possible it's 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that
Yeah. Makes sense.
that answers that. So everyone now knows why why we have 17 feet 11 inches. So the bottom of the structure is at 17 feet. Would you like to now add
Well, I
something?
think if you look at this, because your concern was to see the grade
Yeah.
and what was going to happen. So the retaining wall begins approximately 50 feet from the street. And so to get to the final elevation around the house, which would be 15 feet, you're going to change the grade by 3 feet over 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to visualize that, you have to think of like a handicap ramp, which is 1 foot and 20 feet. So you're basically, that is the change in grade from the street. I'm sorry, from the beginning of the retaining wall.
Yeah.
If you're out at the street, which is 100 feet from the property, 110, 120 from the pavement, you're changing the elevation 3 feet in 120 feet. So it is a very slight slope to get to the house. And that's really the only place that it's visible from. You know, there's a hedge along, they're moving the hedge to here from the one that's back there. So this side of the house you can't see from any of the neighbors, and the same in the rear. So it's really the only visual part is from Beach Lane.
Yeah. And just to clarify, maybe a little more for the board, why we've gone through this sort of iterative process of getting these FEMA guidelines. I think you all are aware. It makes it it raises the, what do you do with grade? What do you do when FEMA asks you to raise your house 4 feet? How do you make that architecturally work where the house is grounded? And it's really a landscape question. So we now have it here in front of us. My stance is, I have concerns that the lot is flat as a pancake. And I have some concerns it's going to look a little awkward. And just to let everyone know, so the top of grade would be at 15 as it meets the house.
Correct.
Right? Okay, so it's 2 feet 11 to the finished floor.
And remember, they are going to replant the bushes. If you look at the previous picture in front here, to screen, and they agreed to add 2 courses of shingles below what's there. So that kind of takes up the difference between the grade, and so the house doesn't look like it's sticking out of the ground.
Or on a podium,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, like a riser. Yeah.
Right. Will, can you go back to see the photo of the house from Beach Lane? Because that's really the elevation we're concerned with. There you go. So house goes up 3 feet 11. There's a retaining wall there.
Hedge, the large hedge that's in the back gets relocated. These will get replanted, so it won't really look like it's sticking way out of the ground.
And there will be additional steps, obviously.
And the retaining wall will run on the.
And the fill that will be, added is again a very gentle slope.
Retaining walls,
When you're standing out here on Beach Lane, that's 120.
So it goes here.
So sorry, I'm trying to situate because it's hard to see the survey.
If the retaining wall begins
That's where I was going to ask.
50 feet here,
I see.
So it's not.
but it's still a very shallow grade.
What's the height of the retaining wall again?
What is the height of the
30 inches?
The
retaining?
retaining wall starts,
No, what's the height of is it 30 inches? the retaining wall? I mean,
Well, it's going to follow what's required for the grade.
Mhm.
So it'll get higher as you get closer to the house.
well, it's going to be, I mean, you max out at 30 inches, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to put a handrail there, so.
So it
or-
starts.
You know, it'll start from
sorry,
zero.
This is
a
zero.
guardrail.
And
Go to 30.
It's on the
what's
left.
necessary to get the fill at the house.
Yeah, it's a.
Too bad. It's such a.
And then taper off
I know.
as you go in the back.
Why are they doing this? They have to?
FEMA,
That'll maintain the
it's
driveway.
required. The house is not FEMA compliant. So any renovation, any work you do, you have to bring the house to be FEMA compliant.
How long is the retaining wall itself?
50 feet.
150 feet?
I thought it said 50 feet. The
It
retaining
looks-
wall,
so,
It's longer than that.
so the distance from the street to the house, you said, is 100 feet?
I mean,
Yes, if you look on the survey, I believe it's 101 from the property
10108.
line.
So it
From the
appears-
street, it's almost 120.
It's basically
Oh,
halfway between the fence and the house is where the retaining wall starts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
what provoked the FEMA requirement?
The FEMA requirement,
Yeah.
the flood zone +2.
Well, they
No,
want
I
to
mean, but
renovate the
what-
building. They
No,
want to
that this
renovate the
house is
building.
existing, but
Yeah.
since they want to renovate,
Right.
that's why.
Well, it's on old locust posts.
Right, no, Diane
So
was
they're
just wondering
putting,
what the trigger is.
they
What trigger
simply
is-
want to put a foundation under it
Right. the
in
tri-
order to do any work. Plus
Ah.
the roof
Oh, I
is
see. Okay.
underbuilt, structurally not very sound. So that's why they changed the roof line. They want to get insulation in there. There's no insulation. It's open,
Right.
you know.
No, I think everyone
so
understands
in
that.
order
Yeah.
to, you know, in order to meet FEMA, to do any work,
Right.
you have to
Right,
meet
right.
FEMA. That drives raising
Right.
it
Well,
that
that's
high.
it's interesting. I mean, I think it's my first application of such a thing. And I think that Member Benson's question was just what triggers the FEMA
Mhm.
requirements. And it's just any renovation work to a house that's in this flood
The
zone.
floods, right.
Yeah. So that's what it is. Because we're likely to see more of these going
Yes,
forward,
yes,
just
I
because we
was-
have so much development on waterfront properties of this sort. So, okay, well, so the retaining wall on the driveway side of the retaining wall, are you proposing any landscaping or anything, or is that just going to be a material?
What's the material? Is it just
That was-
cast concrete?
Yes, so what will happen is the retaining wall will start approximately halfway from the street to the house. And it will go up along and cut over. There will be it'll create like a planting bed between the house and the retaining wall. And then as it goes in the back, it tapers back down to get back to the,
You know, the 12-foot natural grade.
Right. So what is the material? Did you say concrete?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just going to
okay.
be a basic
And
retaining.
is there, any landscaping proposed for the north side of it? Like,
For the
along
north side,
driveway
yes,
side?
between the retaining wall and the house.
And the
si-
driveway.
Similar to
And the,
what
dri- I'm thinking about the driveway.
very simple. You know, they're just gonna plant right there.
No,
Right,
the driveway
between
side.
the driveway and the retaining wall.
To screen, they're asking, is there any screening proposed to hide the retaining wall?
On
Where it's
on-
exposed.
From the driveway?
Yeah.
Yes.
Between the driveway, there's not a lot of space for it.
You know what I mean? By the time you put that, and this driveway has to stay flat, I mean, they wouldn't,
I don't think they would be adverse. I don't know what you could put there. You have,
was
if
just
you
gonna
look at
say, ivy or
the
something.
survey, there's limited space.
Right. No, I understand, but maybe some.
And
ivy.
you can't move
No.
the retaining wall further away because then you're destroying the driveway.
No, I understand that. I'm just trying to, we're trying, I get the project. It makes it,
Mitigation.
just trying to mitigate the visual impacts of it, because as you come down the street, you're going to see that, and as you look at it, you're going to see that,
Right.
because it's going to be at some
Again, it
point like a
starts from
3-foot wall.
zero
No, I
and
understand.
then
Yeah.
tapers up to the highest point at the house.
Right. No,
And
yeah.
tapers back down.
Right. No, I'm not, I get it. I think it's modest. I think, generally speaking, these are improvements that I
approve of, but I'm just trying to find a way to mitigate the visual impacts of it. That's all. Can it be painted or
Yeah,
if you
well,
can't?
what will the retaining wall be? Would it be concrete or will it be brick or?
And
I mean, you could you put privet along it and cut and shear it tight to the wall?
It's not enough space. I mean, what I'm thinking, if you look at the site plan, I am wondering now, looking at this, I mean, there seems to be at least 12 feet. Granted, I don't think you want to do anything that would necessarily rip out the hedge, but I don't see why the driveway couldn't move a few feet north away from the house.
They don't want really to do anything with the existing
hedge.
Is that hedge
and the
theirs?
property line is pretty close there.
Well, it's showing here on the survey that it's about 12 feet. Like, I don't,
this is the survey, but
sorry, the site plan.
site plan, yeah.
I'll
I think
pass
so.
this down. I don't, seems to me you could move
I have the site plan.
you could move the driveway a little bit further north to give a little breathing room between the, either
Yeah, it's
move the,
11.9 feet, yeah.
just trying to, if you moved the driveway further north, you might be able to reduce the height. I mean, there's also a question, is that the retaining wall, it must be sloped upwards, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's not like we start.
Yeah,
at
you don't
30
want to
inches.
start it at,
Right.
you know.
So I'm just,
Yeah, it's a
clarifying
gradual
that.
incline. It does incline, but it's,
And then goes back down here.
I'm just thinking if there's any way to mitigate the color of it, just so that it's not a cement wall,
Because
I mean, if you
can't plant it, maybe.
there are two strategies. One is to
Yeah.
One is to try to cover it.
Yeah.
The other one, as I'm suggesting, is if you moved the driveway a little further north, it kind of moves it out of sight because it becomes closer to the property line that you rarely will see.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You will rarely see the exposed side of it. And it would actually give more chance for it to slope down a little bit further, maybe 6 inches, where the retaining wall wouldn't have to be as high.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Because it would put a little, excuse me,
It would give a
space
little
between
breathing
that
room.
northern wall and the, yeah,
In the house.
right. Well, that's an idea. I mean, it's all going to be
I
disturbed
mean, I'm
anyway.
sure, if you approve the project and the retaining wall, you could make a condition of approval at the end, something that would satisfy you covering, the north part of the wall. Once you see it on the property and see what it looks like, you could make a condition of approval. I don't know.
I know.
Painting it,
Not sure.
Painting it makes
planting
Yeah, once it's
ivy,
there.
It's very contingent. And my concern about us getting comfort about growing something on it is if it starts to turn brown, it doesn't grow very well, and it's worse.
Right.
The deer
It'd
eat
be
it.
worse. Yeah.
So,
they could put planting in the bed next to the house.
Spills
that would
over.
Drape
Over.
over.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
an
that'd be
idea.
good.
I'm a little concerned with trying to move it much further to the north. It's not really wide.
It's not
I
a
mean,
lot
a
of space.
car, yes, but
Pretty tight,
remember,
yeah.
he has a
Saying there's
2-car
plenty of room.
garage back there.
sorry.
You don't want to end up having to trim, that vegetation that's there. And I think he's expressed it a number of times, and I've repeated it. He wants to try to keep the place as close to the way it looks now
Yeah,
as
understood.
possible.
I mean, I'm just suggesting maybe a couple of feet here. I don't think that's going to kill the hedge. It can be trimmed, and this retaining wall is going to far outlast the hedge's life, presumably, or we're approving
Well,
it
you have
to.
to move the driveway and put a new bed down. What if they bricked it?
The retaining wall?
Yeah, the north side of the retaining wall.
I don't know if I'd rather have the concrete, frankly.
The concrete,
it would-
raw concrete is tough.
Oh, I'd be
Right, is it
hanging
cast in
over.
place or block?
I think it would be a poured concrete. You couldn't really do the block,
Stucco.
to step it. It would be a tapered
Yeah.
wall.
Right.
It could be stucco.
It doesn't have to
and that would
be,
do it.
doesn't have to be 10 inches wide.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could stucco the north side of it,
Or you'd want to
in a
stuck on
color.
the top too.
you know?
Or put a slate capping on it.
Yeah.
That's a good solution.
White, and then you see it more.
Well, they can get any color you
Maybe
want.
they
stucco.
could, yeah, like
That's what I
gray,
mean,
but
but
you
you don't
know,
wanna
we
have
need
it
to
be-
find some kind of, color that worked.
I think stucco and the slate cap is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, we can only suggest that, I mean, where do we go from here, Kathy, where we're,
Oh, no, I think we can suggest the material and the colors for the retaining wall. I think that's within our purview to do.
we can suggest it, but can we approve it without,
Oh, I don't think we
Having
can
s-
approve without a
right.
color sample or something. I think we'd
Yeah,
have to
I
have
mean-
that. No, David?
Could, I mean, if, do you have a color in mind?
Can you make it a condition of approval at the end when you come back, before you sign off,
Before,
that it's satisfactory? The planting, the stucco, the color, they're not going to, fight that.
No, I understand
They
that.
want the most natural look possible, I mean, if this is any indication of what they like.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, but I just want to make sure we're giving them clear direction and I don't invest in something that they come back to us and we like.
It's hard to
"Ah."
visualize it because it's a drastic change from just this flat
Yes, that's
farmland.
Hmm.
I suspect when they come back to us, we're going to go. But, well, David, what do you recommend here?
As much detail as possible, if you could, if you want to get the approval right now, you would need to specify what color the retaining wall will be, I guess. I don't really know. I mean, beyond, to be honest, I hadn't even thought of that, so.
Okay.
I
Yeah, we hadn't thought of it till just now, really.
This is a first time, isn't it?
Yes.
So I think to start to withhold the approval to specify details, I mean, I think the
I think it's
project is
holding up.
being developed as it happens and with everybody's best intentions,
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this is Frank. Frank did a great report where he encapsulated what the process has been to this point, where this is actually the first time we're kind of getting the full picture of and a full understanding really of what this is going to mean. At least this is it for me. This is the first full understanding I've had. Of
It could be a
this.
combination of stucco, a certain color, plus some planting that drapes
Uh-huh.
over it
I think that.
to help make it
Yeah,
disappear.
no, I think that would be a great solution.
I do think that you guys should see that though first.
But you took the words right out of my mouth. So but I think what we'll have to do is have you come back with that color, with the proposal of the color of the stucco and what sort of plantings you would be.
A neutral color. I mean, you don't want to send it back to them and then ask them to pick a color and then you say, no, that doesn't.
I
Oh,
think
no,
we're
I
all,
think-
I think we're in agreement on that.
Yeah, I think a neutral color, I feel confident that they'll pick a color that
Yeah.
will be, a neutral color would work, something that would blend into the landscape. I think that these applicants have, and your representation of their desires has given us a confident feeling that they're
Respect.
the work they're doing is compatible with what we're looking to
Right.
achieve. So I don't feel like you're going to come back with Dayglow Orange and we're going to go, wow,
Right,
now.
right.
So, but I do think that at this point in the process, we need that specific information before we can give you an approval on this.
You can't make it a condition of approval.
I don't think that that's a good process
That
for
when
us.
when it's as built and it's time for you to come back and look, you can then at that point dictate what's satisfactory, in terms of
Right.
color and planting.
but that's a retroactive kind of, it feels like cart before the horse to me. I mean, I
But it's
think
not going
you're,
to change anything. It's just going to, be what you want, what you feel is, proper.
It's going
But in the construction thing like this, if there's a footing that has to be made for the stucco or anything and the guy doesn't do it and then we have to deal with it, I think it's got to be laid out all at once. Because there could be issues where the mason says, I can't stucco it now for whatever reason.
yeah. I mean, I think we could try to get you on. I hesitate to say it just because I don't know what our next agenda is like, but this feels like a final piece of information that we should be able to move through quickly and get an approval for you.
Yeah.
I mean, are people generally inclined toward this? I don't want to speak for the board
Yeah, I mean-
and indicate that we're going to approve something we haven't taken a formal vote on, especially given that we haven't gotten all the details. So
Could pull the board.
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to pull the board also in terms of how everyone feels about the grading that we've been talking about, the proposed house addition. I am fine with it. I mean, I'm not a fan of, I'm a little worried about how this is going to look grading up 3 feet. I mean, the owner has been handed something that's unfortunate, that no solution is going to be great. I kind of wish that the owner had engaged like a professional landscaper. I'm not putting down the architect or whoever's involved, but who has some experience in dealing with navigating these FEMA issues. But we are where we are, so I'm inclined to. I am comfortable with everything here except the retaining wall. I would like to see a stuccoed retaining wall in like a neutral gray with it, maybe even with like a bluestone cap.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where I stand.
Does anybody have any other further comments? Or do we generally agree with Frank? I'd like to sort of, Diane, are you comfortable with Frank's suggestion?
I suppose so.
Okay.
I mean, I
Minus the bluestone.
Like the
know Louis
bluestone.
Savary so well, and I know he's a good problem solver.
Right.
And the people seem very interested in doing
the right
the right thing.
Right. No, I feel the same way. I think that whatever you come back with will probably work for us, or maybe just come with a few suggestions so that we're not, stuck. I feel like the bluestone you're getting a little pushback on the bluestone cap, but I think I feel as Frank does, although I'm not sure I agree with the bluestone cap either. But if you would come back with, are you good with that?
Yeah, only I suggest the bluestone because it keeps the water out. The problem with these walls is the water. So if you have a wide cap, the water doesn't get into the wall.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you, Esperanza?
I just think the softer that it appears, or the more that it disappears rather, is the better option. And to me, when you start adding this more hardscaping, it tends to jump out. So
I mean, we're all learning at this point. This is a new area for all of us in this community, this whole FEMA requirement and what needs to be done. And I think this is as subtle a change as could be expected from something that's actually quite dramatic. And, I want to express how positively we are feeling toward this, but we're just needing to get a little bit more detail before we can go forward with an approval. So does that give you enough direction?
So you just want this spelled out?
Yes.
Yes. Details.
Yeah. If you give us some
Nothing,
details, we'd like.
not another survey.
No.
Just the architect pointing out.
Propose the top, the material that you're going to propose for the retaining
bluestone
wall.
cap with a neutral color stucco
And
on
maybe
the
some
north side.
plantings that would grow over that to soften that. And maybe an alternative to the bluestone cap, because some people are less comfortable with the bluestone cap than others.
I would be fine without bluestone cap. Maybe it is a little.
you're the builder, you're the solution.
Most subtle to not have it.
Yeah, I think it'd be more subtle to not have it too, but does that give you enough direction?
Excuse me?
Does that give you enough direction? Do you feel like you've gotten, because I feel bad. I know you've been before us.
You'll send another letter?
We'll send another
Okay.
letter.
And when you come back with a color, come back with a color swatch,
If you
like a
come back with a
physical
chip,
sample
yeah.
of a color chip for the stucco.
For the stucco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way
Or
we,
maybe more than one, actually. I mean, if there's more than one that they
Right.
would choose, you know,
right. If there's a,
two or
if-
three,
yeah,
three.
there's a variety of.
Is it more a
range.
beige?
Yeah,
See
gray?
what, you
Yeah.
know.
It's just not white.
Just not something,
Yeah,
yeah.
not white.
Something that
I would
recedes.
say gray, beige, something that would blend into the land, you know, the environment there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that is Suffolk County. All right, so that was Mahoney. Thank you, everybody. That was a good discussion. Number 11, Joe Carroll Lauder, Suffolk County Tax Act number 300-200-2-28.7 has been postponed by request of the applicant. We're up to 12, 170 Sayers Path LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-197-6-21.1. Chip, this is yours. Is Mr. Scotty present?
Yep.
Hello.
And
I'm well,
Reverend
thanks.
Alt,
And
yep.
you? Good. Oh, okay, great. We love samples.
Okay, so
Okay.
this is a request to build a new house, garage, and guest house on a 1.2 acre lot on Sayers Path, closest to the Wainscott Main Street end of Sayers Path. The property comes before us as it borders an agricultural reserve, but in reality, it's not on a field in the traditional sense of an agricultural reserve. The Osborne Farm subdivision is immediately behind the back of this site, and the home will have, it blocks the view of any fields in the Wainscott. So it's sort of an enclosed situation. The applicant seeks to demolish the current somewhat derelict farmhouse, garage shed, and guest house to build their new home. The proposed house is traditional design with yellow cedar shingles, reclaimed brick, copper gutters, white trim, soft gray sashes and doors. The garage and guest house will match the main house, so it will be very consistent. The main house is 5,289 square feet. The guest house is 1,518 square feet. The garage is 597 square feet. There will also be a 20 by 44 square foot swimming pool. I find the architectural appropriate for the site. It's a well-conceived project, and it seems incredibly respectful of the neighborhood. I'll turn it over to Dan and Ray to fill us in.
Thank you, Chip. Appreciate the kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. Dan Scotty on behalf of the applicant, and also with me here is Ray Renault, architect. We worked together collaboratively on the design of the home.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So may I approach the screen?
Please, yeah, just speak loudly if you can, so the mic can pick you up.
Flip the
Or
mic
flip the
over
mic.
towards
Or spin the mic toward you. Yeah, that helps because we're recording all this and sometimes it's helpful to go back.
So the design of the house is inspired by the traditional farmhouses that you see throughout Wainscott and Sagaponack and other parts of East Hampton. It's a traditional 5-bay farmhouse, much like the Conklin house that's at the top of each lane. We offset the front door to make it work for the interior program, the layout, but it's essentially a 5-bay farmhouse with 5 windows across the top, 4 windows and a door on the first level. And then essentially it's supposed to look like a house that was essentially built over time. It started with a small farmhouse, and as the family grew in number, they had to do an addition on one side, and then they had another kid or another 2 kids. They had to do an addition on the other side. And what we did is we stepped down the volumes that are on the north and south sides of the structure, so that it would basically feel more connected to the land and not take up so much space visually. This property currently has, in addition to the principal residence, the garage, and a storage shed, has a guest cottage with full plumbing and kitchen in it, which it constitutes a second primary dwelling structure on the property. So that allows our client to take the available gross floor area for the principal structure and divide it into 2 different principal structures for the property. And that's what we've done. And Chip has so accurately described. We divided the square footage between the main residence of 5,289
and 1518 for the guest cottage. The design of the guest cottage, I don't know if we should flip to the next screen.
Yeah, the guest cottage is essentially, it's a two-story structure in that there's living space on 2 stories, but it's essentially designed as a 1.5 story where the living space on the second floor is all tucked under a gable to bring it down to scale. This is sort of a fun thing. We were inspired by a home that we saw in Nantucket, which had a deck that's essentially cut in front of a row of windows. So that gives the impression that the illusion that the deck was added at a later point in time. The whole idea with this project was to try to design a series of structures that look like they've been there for many, many years. The materials that we propose to use are Alaska yellow cedar for the roofing shingles and the sidewalls that we would let weather naturally to a nice silvery gray. And then for the trim and the clapboard siding, we used this soft white, Benjamin Moore White 01. And then for the window sashes and the door slats themselves, we propose to use, and the carriage house garage door, we propose to use the soft gray, which is Cape Cod gray from Pratt Lambert. And then lead coated copper gutters and levers. Be happy to answer any questions you have about the project.
I just want to mention, I think this house will feel very much like the house on Beach Lane we've had before us forever, with the 2 garages in the front yard. The shape of the property is the same, and the way it kind of feels is going to be very similar to that.
Ray, do you have anything you would like to add?
No, I think that the massing of the structure, as Dan described, kind of graduates in scale. And I think it feels like it's always been there.
How big is the lot?
1.2 acres.
Yes, 1.2, 52,467.
I thought it was a large lot, but there's an aerial view. Will, that aerial view you sent in was the photos I sent in, are they?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so there's a really nice aerial view that shows you the adjoining property. So
that's interesting.
So Dan, show them where.
Yes, essentially, this is Sayers Path here. I actually used to live right across the street of 183 Sayers. And then this is the reserve back here. These homes that are on this cul-de-sac are on Osborne Farm Lane.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really not any this is the structure here, the lot here. There's really no portion of it that touches the reserve.
Mm.
Here, you've got one here.
Well,
and you have 2 on the right, I think.
Yes, there's 2 here.
Yeah, I know, but I think you know.
But so it's not going to, I mean, we always talk about, fenestration and lighting and all this stuff. There's not going to be lights in this house being seen from the field because it's, that neighbor to the back is very densely vegetated.
Right, and this house is already very exposed to the.
Yeah.
To the
I mean, practically speaking, yes, but as I mentioned before, we have to consider the house. If some owner decides to come in and rip out all the hedges, it's visible. So it's just something of our purview is what we always have to look at. What is the potential for this to be if someone decides to go out with a chainsaw and do something like that. But it seems like the visual impact from that corner is still quite minimal.
Yeah.
I mean, the massing is in the middle of the lot. Lucky owners to be able to split into 2 structures like this.
Well, the guest house will be towards the back upper right-hand corner. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, cottage would be roughly in this area right here.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, why can they do the trade-off between like
2 principal dwelling structures on one property? There's a ZBA opinion from back in 2010. It was a property on Further Lane, which set the precedent for this. And I've already met with Ann Glennon about this. I'm
just curious.
Yeah, we cleared this. Yeah, it's because there's an existing legal cottage on the property that constitutes a second primary dwelling structure. So they could have split it 50-50. You can do 60-30
Right.
or 60-40.
Yeah, I mean, they could be all the way in the back.
Yeah.
Lucky
Yeah.
owners.
Because there's an
You'll notice on the survey
Yeah,
that
there's an
the guest
existing
cottage is
house.
actually set back from the rear property line by about 63 feet.
Yeah.
You know, it could have gone a lot closer, but
Yeah.
we decided it would feel awkward and kind of somewhat detached.
Right. And also the front structure, the primary residence is about 140 feet from Sayers Path. So it's a long, deep lot, as you can see.
Yeah.
So we tried to space the structures.
Be a long walk to the cottage, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think the composition is well cited in terms of the massing on the lot and how you all have arranged this. I like how it's unlike the property in Beach Lane. I like how it's open to the street and welcoming. I think the fenestration, I think materials are working well. What is the roofing material again?
It would be Alaskan yellow cedar taper sans.
Great. I mean, that's great. I have a couple, just a sort of a couple of things I'm just wondering about. One is the door to the garage, not the garage door, the swing door to the garage faces the street as opposed to facing the driveway.
Or the house.
Or the house.
Right.
So you don't normally see that.
Right. So the idea with that was to try to design a structure that didn't look like a suburban garage, but rather like sort of a Nantucket bike shed. So the idea is there'd be 2 bays for cars, and then that little bump out is essentially for bikes.
Right. Yeah, I got the bump out. I'm just wanting the door oriented to the street versus oriented to the.
I think it gives it some
character.
Yeah, some character, some visual interest from the street.
There is another door on the garage that connects towards the mudroom side of the house.
Okay.
It's probably not visible in the renderings, but it's the same type of door.
Okay.
Yeah, I see
To
it.
get into the garage, and this door was really to get into like the bike storage area and access the bicycle portion of the garage.
Okay.
But it was included as much for aesthetics as it was for function.
Yeah.
Is there any lighting on those buildings?
Yes, we included tear sheets. We have a dark sky compliant sconce that we propose to use. It should be
Yeah, it's here.
materials.
For those garage doors that you were referring to just now, though, are those recessed in the overhang above those
They're
doors?
overhead doors. Yeah, they're intended to look like they're swinging carriage house doors, but they'll be operable overhead doors with the carriage house style.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
It's not easy to find a dark sky compliant sconce that's attractive, I have to tell you.
So what I was asking is the lighting above the pedestrian doors to the garage and anywhere else, is that recessed?
Oh, no, it flanks.
Because it's not indicated on the,
Should be on the rendering.
it's not on the elevation.
Oh, okay. Let's look at the.
So that would be again, like one of
Probably a
these
recessed
sconces. I thought it might be a recessed one in the little,
Of those little canopies.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Oh, you mean above the pedestrian doors?
Doors.
A recessed light.
Yes.
Okay.
My apologies.
Yeah, the other ones I see. So
Yes,
that's
yes.
why I was asking.
That's correct.
There's not much room above the canopy, above the door to really do
Yeah, you have to do a recess because the brackets would prevent you from being able to do a sconce.
Question about the north elevation, page 13 of the application
Page 13.
of the drawing. So the north elevation drawing,
Is that 204 or
203.
203? So
Just wonder why these aren't centered. I get it, there's space. But this is a double height space here. Could be
Send it
kind of-
over the lower windows? or-
See how it's not, see how this is slightly off.
yeah, that's the kitchen wing.
So can you zoom in, Will? Or I mean, we can see it. It might good to zoom a little bit on the top one. Just wondering. So that's a double height space behind there, right? That's the kitchen below it, and the
This is all
essentially
1.5 story.
right.
Here you go.
So it's like it's a vaulted, the cathedral vaulted ceiling in there, right?
Well, it'll go to a maximum height.
This will go to a flat of just
15
under
feet.
15.
So where's the so the ceiling is
It'll be a flat
Okay.
ceiling here.
so the thing I'm just sort of wondering around, just kind of visually is I understand the spacing of the square windows, but the center one is not quite centered on the peak.
Yes. So this is similar to a kitchen that we've done a number of times. I did this on Further Lane, I did this on Hither Lane, Cross Highway, Egypt Close. We've discovered that it's more important on the interior elevation to have this rhythm. No one's ever going to see this. There's already existing vegetation. It's right up against the property line. You know, these are fairly narrow lots on this part of Sayers Path.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really not visible. You couldn't see this if you wanted to.
So it's an interior consideration versus an
That's an interior consideration.
It's more of a clear story. Is that
It's a
what-
clear story, and the rhythm of the window pattern on the interior is really spectacular.
And you essentially get filtered light because there's trees with the kitchen. So you get filtered light to the kitchen through the trees.
Okay.
Other comments, questions?
I mean, I do find myself in the rare situation of not having a lot of comments. I would say it would be nice to see on the rear elevation facing the pool, like you can see it in the rendering on A201, maybe a little relief in the elevation, like on go back to there you go. Zoom into the top right one. There, go back. Will, you were on it. I don't know why our computers are so slow here.
Rendering page.
I could do the building department. It's like, did we freeze up? So Will, there's a page of renderings. Are we frozen? What's going on?
There we go.
No, he just couldn't figure out what
I thought it
to
was on the
get.
screen, it wasn't on the screen.
Zoom in a little more to that one. I'm just wondering if that middle part, I don't even if it's like even like a gooseneck sconce or something, just to give it a little relief.
Where are you referring to?
I'm referring to the middle section with all the windows. Yeah.
Elevation of the 5-bay.
Right.
Yeah.
Built over time, this would have been the original structure, and that's all that would have existed. I think that's probably the most pure of the traditional Waystead farmhouse.
Yeah,
Of the
I think,
elevation.
I think we agree with that. But you're suggesting a sconce in there?
Oh, just something to give a little
breaking the
elevation
action.
shadow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's blunted by the balcony on the right.
Right.
Yeah, I can live with it.
We did explore some, options with that rear elevation, but we felt that it got kind of very busy. So we actually like the kind of simplicity of what's happening.
I think it's simple.
Okay.
Simple and elegant.
Yeah, I think it's simple. I'd like to get a better sense of how it relates to the surroundings.
I have an aerial that I can show you. I don't think it's in the materials that he has, though.
Even if the GIS again.
An aerial property. And Sayers Path is the bottom of the screen. And then Waystead Hall is all. That's the hard one.
Yeah. I mean,
So these homes are on Osborne Farm Lane.
Right.
That's Waynescott Holloway in the distance.
Right.
Sayers Path.
Right. So the guest house is going to go right sort of where that tree is?
Between that tree and that tree
Mm-hmm.
in terms of
Mm-hmm.
west.
Mm-hmm.
What's the height then of this roof deck off the guest cottage? What height is that? 'Cause-
I think it's about 11 feet.
I'm just thinking how that impacts the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That'd be right against their,
Driveway,
yeah,
you're close to it.
yeah. Go back right up to it, really.
Is it two houses to the north, or is that one property to the north? It's hard to tell.
Those are two separate properties to
Two
the north of
separate.
it.
So there's a front lot and a flag lot, okay.
Yes.
this is the one we approved.
Black driveway.
One Kitty
That's the,
McCoy did. Remember this one?
Where's
That's
that?
the guest cottage has
Oh, down the street.
Like
A roof
right,
deck.
Yeah, that's
and
exquisite, yeah.
fireplace and so
We're
forth.
over here.
we're right here.
Right here, because this is that lot.
Right.
This, you like
Yes,
this?
it's two doors, two lots up.
I think it's, I don't know.
Looks like an apartment building.
I think it looks more beachy, more, I sort of like it. I think it's quite original and thoughtfulness.
I mean, relative to some of the more recent applications we've reviewed in Wainscott, it's certainly.
Well, this isn't small, so.
Right.
It's a 1.2 acre lot, yeah.
I'm just thinking in proportion to.
Yeah, the rest of the neighborhood, yeah.
The distance of lot line.
So that. The house.
Okay, so it's like 20 to 23 feet from the lot line, your side lot lines.
It's not a lot, but it's long and narrow. The lot is long and narrow.
And this currently is, it's all open to the street, right?
Yes. There's a split rail fence.
Anything proposed?
Either replacing or trying to salvage the split rail fence that's there. Very similar to the fence that was on the previous application on Beach Lane. That was a beautiful split rail, but similar to that.
So essentially, this is just like a central driveway into this manor house.
I don't know if I'd call it a manor.
Seems that way.
Yeah, it's
Central courtyard, yes.
How big is the house, the main house?
5280.
Above ground square
yeah,
footage?
5289.
Yeah.
5289, yeah.
It's fake. Yes.
Yeah, no, the idea was to keep it open to the street so that it feels like it's part of the community. And most of the homes on Sayers Path are open. There are a few that are hedged, but most are open.
Are you going to come back with a gate?
No, I'm not.
Promise? Cross your heart?
Not on this project. Maybe another.
I don't know. I think I need to look at this.
Do you want to poll the board? Do you want to vote? What do you want to do here?
Well, I just wanted to give everybody a chance to sort of absorb this.
It seems we're in a unique position of oftentimes we get just speaking like oftentimes we get things on a first submittal and we discuss it and we say, okay, we'll come back and consider these changes. And we're sort of in a unique position of not initial outright, okay, something has to change.
And also you've delivered a very complete application, beautiful materials. I mean, it's.
Well, he has some experience with us.
Thank you.
I mean, it's.
I also watched the presentation on the Wainscott Main Street a project that's closer to Town Line, where it was approved at the first meeting.
Oh, yes, I
I
know the one you
rewatched that
mean.
video.
Yes, this was reminiscent of that. It's a little bigger, but I think the design is nice. I wish it was a tiny bit. I wish the massing wasn't quite as large. But I think it makes sense the way it's composed. I think it just looks much. It looks like a lot on when I look at these pictures. It looks like a lot on the lot, and maybe it's just because of this big courtyard. It just feels like there's so much more development there. The visuals of seeing this, undeveloped land and then this big.
We did start with a larger
things and a courtyard.
We did start with a larger structure and worked with our clients to get to this point.
And by breaking up the structures and splitting the gross floor area.
No, I get
actually
it. I
helps
get
with
it.
The scale.
No, I see that. I see that. I think maybe it's the courtyard that's throwing me a little bit.
The parking court.
Yes, yeah, the parking court feels as big as the house to me in terms of the.
It takes
visual
away from the rural
impacts.
feel of it.
Yeah,
It does diminish a little of that.
If it helps, this is not going to be a Belgian block, Greenwich, Connecticut manicured, entryway. This will be very bucolic and natural. The parking court is really for function, but it'll be very natural.
The architect has called out the parking court. Parking court cloud.
Is this LaGuardia?
No, this is Dan Popadick from Land 41.
Is it the central axis of the driveway?
I think it's the formality that
I think it is a formality of it. I do think
Yeah,
that.
just also the expanse of that courtyard, it feels to me like it's another footprint size almost of the house. It just visually, it looks like that to me.
Well, we need access to the garage doors that are facing south.
No, I
If we
understand.
were to flip the garage and face the carriage house to the street, we could change that, but we're trying to.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, I'm not partial to that.
It's also a nice approach, looking at the main body of the original house, let's say, as you approach from the
French
driveway and seeing that centered.
French chateau.
Well, there you go. It's a little Versailles-esque, right? I mean, that's the feeling. And then you see, it's this, I see what you're referring to about the Wainscott farmhouse or the Conklin house. That's evident. But the whole feel of it is, it strays from that rural agricultural.
Yeah, I think the idea of centering the driveway is really to frame the view of that 5-bay farmhouse.
Right.
If you go just 3 or 4 properties south of this one on the same side of Sayers Path, there's a very beautiful 5-bay farmhouse that was owned by a famous interior designer, actually.
Which is coming before us for lots of changes.
Is it really?
Yes,
And
it is.
this is the one with
Victoria
the break,
Hagen's house?
with the break in it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Victoria Hagen.
Exactly.
Yeah, which looks like it's been there forever.
And it hasn't.
And it hasn't.
And it hasn't.
Right.
And that there's a very mature hedge, because I used to live right across the street from it. There's a break in the hedge which defines the front entry, and it's just beautiful. Everybody loves that house.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not, I'm not having that problem with the house. I think it's just this courtyard that's throwing me.
We pulled up Victoria Hagen's house and we're looking at it. It has a huge courtyard to the side.
To the side.
And a huge driveway. Yes.
Yeah, but to the side, I think that's the difference. Even if you look at the Conklin house is.
Yeah, I don't think they can do that on this lot.
No, I
anyway, because
understand.
it's so narrow. It's not, they don't have that capability.
And
Or a winding driveway.
Victoria Hagen's house has got to be, it's this one. So this has got to be 4 or 5 acres of land. If we're here 1.2 and we're here, this is a very large lot. Here's this driveway that comes back. It's actually a larger courtyard that we're talking about.
Yeah, we looked at that a few months ago. Right. Okay.
So, I mean, it sounds like it's not necessarily that people maybe not like the centered access of the driveway. It's a question of whether it works. I'm speaking for others, whether it works in the context of Wainscott.
access the garage
Understood.
and park across. So it's actually very
Yeah, well,
efficient.
We understand the
Yeah,
practicality
no,
of it.
I get that. I wonder if it couldn't be a little smaller. I don't suppose you could do that and have it balanced in the middle of the property like that.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Doesn't want to access the driveway if it went just like that.
You also need room for the septic system in the front.
I mean, it seems like
Yeah.
a lot of
It'd be underneath the driveway. So
parking, doesn't it? Yep. Mhm.
And I was just looking again at the sample because really the house here presents some white, but that's really the color that the Alaskan cedar would weather to.
This, the only part that's white,
roof.
other than the trim, is the clapboard siding on the lower portion of the left wing.
I see that now, yes. Okay.
And that wraps around, and then
on the
other side,
Yeah,
that wraps around and dies into the side of the building.
I see.
Okay, well, that'll help.
No,
I
that's
think that's
fine. That's
sufficient.
helpful.
Yeah,
I
thank
couldn't,
you.
I
That-
couldn't
yeah.
distinguish those two textures and materials in
She
the.
doesn't like your renderings, Ray.
No, I couldn't distinguish. Now that you said it, now I can't unsee it. But my point being more that the Alaskan cedar would weather darker.
Yeah.
So the white would then jump out more.
Yep.
The Conklin house is all white. The whole facade, the whole front of it is white.
And then there's the side little.
Right. I love the combination.
Mhm.
And okay, sorry.
Okay, well, you want
Okay.
to vote on it or make a motion?
I don't know.
I don't think I would want, I mean, I wouldn't be prepared to make a motion. I don't know.
Where do we stand on this?
Yeah, I mean, we've been sitting here a long time.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, are people ready to approve this or do we, or are we not ready to approve? And if we're not, I think we need to have feedback of
yeah, what we need to,
what is
changes
not,
for, yeah.
people don't feel
I
comfortable.
mean, I don't have any, I like the design of it. I get the farmhouse feel. I think that's great. I have a little problem with the size of the courtyard. I think the courtyard, the scale of that and the scale of that just feels too much to me in that everything else seems fine. That's my only reservation with it, is it just feels like too much.
But Kathy,
Yeah.
here it is. I mean, Kevin, how would you make it smaller and get the cars in and get, I mean, 2 or 3 cars here, 2 cars in the garage? How are you going to make it smaller?
Well, so then it's a parking lot is what
Well,
it
it's
is.
a place
I
to
mean,
park your cars, yeah.
Right, well.
I mean, but you're heading to, let's take off 20 feet, you're going to have no space at all to park 4 or 5 cars.
Okay, well,
Let's
space for 4 or 5 cars is necessary, then I guess that's the size of driveway they need, the size of the parking area they need. This is not a driveway, this is a parking area.
Yeah.
This is the driveway.
Yeah. But
So, if it's a parking area, then we should be calling it a parking area. And I don't know, I think you could make it shorter here. I think I see the concept of balancing it. I would take a few feet off here, and then it wouldn't be so massive looking.
Maybe in the drawing, if the lawn wasn't so green and it didn't look so much like
the
little
contrast.
mini Versailles, I mean, if the landscape was softer.
I mean, we're going from this to that. It's, that's
Yeah.
the adjustment here.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think, the materials are great. I think the design of the house is great. I'm just having a little trouble with that courtyard. I think the courtyard is too big. And it's not a courtyard, it's a parking area. So I don't know why we're calling it courtyard.
It's a parking court.
Parking court.
Well, also keep in mind if they get deliveries, you know,
Yeah, FedEx trucks, UPS trucks. I mean,
you're going to need to turn
yeah.
around in that area as well.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay,
that, but
well,
I
is there
get that.
specific
Yeah, well,
feedback
they
the
may
board is
know
giving
down
about
my
the
driveway. I don't have a driveway that big.
Diane, what are your thoughts?
I said the landscape looks a little hard. I think that the house is nice and I like the the outdoor staircase.
Esperanza?
I like the thought that has gone into it.
Yeah, Esperanza.
Yeah, I think I just need to live with this a little bit, just with the whole proportion of the main house with the guest house on that property and then within that neighborhood.
What does that mean, live with it? I mean,
Like, think about it, contemplate it more, because I just on this one visit, I don't feel like I have enough of a grasp on how this will look on Sayers Path.
Frank?
Well, David, where does that leave us if we're, I mean, I'm just thinking, I understand Esperanza's point about wanting to sort of digest this, but where does this leave us, Kathy, with like a response letter?
It can be tabled for any reason, to be honest. I mean, that's something that if you don't feel that you're.
If everybody else is ready to vote, then go ahead
No, I
and
think
vote.
It's like it's at the chair's discretion. There's no obligation that the board vote just because. If it's really up to Kathy, if she wants to have a vote. But
Does it make sense to poll the board informally to see if there's a possibility of approval?
Yeah, I thought we were kind of doing that now, so Diane seemed to be in favor of it, except for the harshness of the landscape, and Esperanza wants to sit with it. Frank seems
I'm willing to approve it. I mean, I see the point about, I do think Kathy's point about the formality of a driveway in the context is a valid one.
These are great clients. They want to do the right thing. They love Wayne Scott. They hired us because we love Wayne Scott. And if we get an approval tonight, we will take all of your comments and execute in that direction.
Well, we can't really do that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear what you said.
If they get an approval.
Well, I mean, if we approve it, it's going on.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. Once you get an approval, then,
I personally have voted and approved something and then seen it built and regret it. So I apologize, but I just don't feel, if there's for the delay, but I don't feel I'm prepared to vote on this right now.
Okay, well, let's, how many people are prepared to vote on this right now? Just say you are.
I am.
Are you, Frank?
I would like to see some, I'm not rejecting the center axis of a driveway, but I would like to see maybe some exploration of it. We've done that with previous applicants where there is one part of an application, thinking about the wall, where we were maybe, and then they came back to us with a couple of options. So we had the flexibility of perhaps going back and improving it, but we had something else to consider with it. In terms of the architecture, I'm fine with it.
I feel the same way about the courtyard or parking area or whatever. If you could maybe come back to us with a different alternative or a couple of alternatives.
What if the driveway wasn't straight on and it arced over? So it was on the south side and it made a beautiful curvy arc to come up to where the courtyard is. It wouldn't have that formal English feeling that it has
very
now.
boxy, yeah.
Yeah, so you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do. We can look at some options.
Like
that might get there. I mean, if it was a beautiful arc and you came in almost on the side of it, on the south side or at the very beginning of the south side, it would get rid of that formal English look that it has
Just
now.
that it's very geometric.
Looks
I
French
think
to
that's
me.
part of what the
Yeah.
spacing of
Yeah,
it is
we can look at
making it
that.
seem like squares and squares, even though
We're just gonna lose some parking because. you're
Yeah,
gonna be
because you're not going to have a
approaching-
place to turn around. Yeah, I
Well,
totally get it.
It may force the parking to be towards the front,
Head in.
property line instead of on the side.
I mean, maybe even it's just where the curb cut is. Maybe I'm just throwing out, I mean, maybe it's just something that would, where you keep the courtyard, but the driveway itself, like Chip was saying, you keep the courtyard as is, but you just, where the curb cut is not centered on the house.
If we do that, we would lose the two spaces that we currently have across from the garage.
Here and here. That's a two space.
Yeah, there's two spaces.
So that's not very much, actually.
No,
So basically you can park 4 cars here if you don't go in the
yeah,
garage.
essentially.
I mean, given the size of
Escaping-
FedEx trucks and UPS trucks.
Oh, they always find a way. there.
I know, but they run over
The
stuff.
deliveries, honestly, that's not.
You can
Oh,
see the
okay.
Bayberry
That's a different
cloud
one.
that
Okay, there we go.
the landscape architect has
Oh,
specified
okay.
around the parking area to kind of screen and soften the edges.
Hmm.
And that's very natural.
I mean, even if it was something, some curb cut that was 20 feet to the left or 30 feet to the left, and it just sort of came, I don't want to play landscape architect. here.
No, and I think, I mean, to me, we're talking about the town code and the rural feel, and I'm happy to see the split rail fence and everything open and no driveway gate, but the less formality, the better. I mean, I just really would
yeah.
emphasize that because I think that would be fitting with what you're proposing for the
house.
house.
Yeah.
So why don't we ask Dan and
Like
Ray
the
to come
size of
back
it.
with another
Yeah,
driveway?
I think we're,
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
that'd be, okay. All right, great.
And I just also, and I mean, the guest cottage, that roof deck. How large is that?
Probably have the terrace below.
It's 762.
762 square feet?
Yeah, it's driven by the covered space that's,
So it's like 20 by 30 or 20 by 40?
I don't have physical dimensions, it's less than 20, it's probably.
Yeah, it's a fair sized building.
Yeah, it's a fair sized building.
Clients want to have outside.
Like a canopy. Okay.
All right, so, well, yeah, if you could, we'll send you a follow-up letter. Did you have something to do?
Well, I mean, I would just see if there's any way to, I don't know. Again, I think I have to live with this a little bit more, consider it more, but I just feel the guest cottage is substantial. And then that roof deck is substantial. So I'm just trying to picture all of this on that property.
Have
And
you
how
gone-
it really, again, how
Why
it
don't you
relates
go,
with the site.
why don't you go over and walk the property?
I'm going to,
It's totally
yeah.
empty.
It was pouring rain today, so I couldn't, I was going to do that, so.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you, guys.
all right, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll send you a follow-up letter with. Okay, okay, all right, now we're on to certificates of occupancy, I believe. Yes. And we're jumping to number 15, which is Joe Carroll Lauder.
Yeah.
Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-2-28.3. And Diane, this is yours.
Yes, this is the one of 2 properties that are seeking a C of O tonight.
Can
For
I-
pedestrian,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I had recused myself. I don't need to recuse myself from this part, do I?
No, you just won't sign the,
Okay, because sorry to interrupt, Diane.
that's okay.
But just to make sure I don't need to walk
He
right.
doesn't have to leave the room, right?
Joe Carroll Lauder postponed?
Yeah, but this is the CO. For the gates.
The
Yeah,
ag
this-
overlay
yeah.
application was.
Yeah,
this
I
isn't
know.
for the
It's
beach
just
lane.
on
This
the
is,
agenda tonight with sort of
Yes.
repeated elements.
There are,
Yeah.
yeah, we're having
Sort of
doubles.
duplicates,
But
yeah.
in this instance, Frank recused himself from this application. So he just shouldn't vote on this, right?
Correct. I don't need to leave the
Great.
room.
No, you don't have to leave.
No, anyway, there's
No,
no
he's recused. He
controversy.
doesn't
Presence
say
is
he's
neutral.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
and I must say, there's absolutely no controversy.
Okay.
Our resolution calls for very exacting measurements of a pedestrian gate, a proposed gates, driveway gates, and fencing. It has been built exactly as detailed in our resolution, and it complies with every measurement, and it's the neighborhood is beautiful. And
Okay.
it adds to so I make
Keeps
it.
the cows in.
Yeah.
Would you like to make a motion?
So I like to make a motion to approve this application and to instruct the building department that it's ready for a certificate of occupancy.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So let the record note that member Guittard is recused from that vote. Okay. Number.
Because I was not in favor of this application.
Well, you can vote against it. It'll still pass.
Which one was that again? I'm sorry.
Joe Carroll Loader, item 15, Suffolk County Tax Map number 3.
I was going to ask you, sorry, before you started on it, because they postponed it from the ag overlay.
Yes.
Oh,
but
so
this
it's
is- this is for the gates.
Property.
These multiple
It's
people
for
are.
a different,
These are two other properties.
Yeah, these are completely different.
yeah, it's just for a different thing. It's the same applicant,
That
but
was
for a
it.
different thing.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, it's like the night of redundancies, honestly.
So 2 people voted, 3 people.
So we
voted
have
yes, 1
three-
voted No. Is that-
3 in favor. Are you voting against it?
I wasn't. in
Okay,
favor
so
of these.
three in favor, 1 against, and 1 recusal. Okay. Number 16, Ronald Lawler, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-1-15.8. Diane, this is also yours.
Yes, and this is this is across the street and down 2 properties. It basically conforms exactly to the one we just approved. Every measurement is exactly as our resolution requires. And they're sort of cluster properties, and I think they look
Great.
charming.
Would you like to make a motion?
So I would like to make a motion to approve this application for a certificate of occupancy and instruct the building department that it's ready.
Are you recused from this one too, Frank?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 recusal. Okay, next up, 226 Bluff Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-4.
Who was refused on that last one?
Esperanza.
No,
No,
recused.
Esperanza
Recused
voted
is-
against. Frank was recused. Frank recused on the Lauder application. Okay.
Eggs here.
I'm gonna need a drink tonight. Okay, 226 Bluff Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 172-4-8.15. That's mine. I'm going to do both of these at the same time. 230 Bluff Road, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-4-8.14. This is the photograph of the gate, the resolution. These are 2 properties that are in vertical alignment with one another, and they both use the same gate. So every element of the resolution was observed, and the gate height was 5 feet exactly. 5 feet 1 from the grade, and the concrete pillars were exactly 18 inches square and 5 feet high, and so on. There are a bunch of fences around that property that someone should probably take a look at, but that's not what's before us right now. So I'd like to make a
And sorry,
motion.
and the call box is within the property.
Call box is within the property line. Yeah, it's way back off the road.
Yeah, that's what I.
Yeah, I couldn't drive back there because they were working on the driveway the day I went to photograph it. So the mouth of it was 6 people there. So, I need the language.
Have it.
Do you have
Told it
this?
disappeared. I have the language.
I'd like to make a motion that we instruct staff to instruct the building department that the applicant has satisfied the conditions of the ARB approval and a certificate of occupancy can be issued.
Thank you. I should take a picture of that. May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that's passed and carried for 226 Bluff Road and 230 Bluff Road. Now we have resolutions, and I don't have them here to read from them.
No resolution.
There are resolutions, there are two.
Oh, you
where-
mean for the tax map numbers?
Yeah, I need to read them into the record, and Will did print them. I should have mentioned, Julie, we hope you're better. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the meeting. Our secretary, Julie, is out sick, and it's part of the reason everything is so hectic tonight, so. We wish you well and hope you get back to us soon.
You're there. Here you go. Here, Kathy.
Yes. Okay, yes, I can. Fleetwood and McMullen, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-188-1-16.1.
It was like.
Yeah, okay.
Excuse me,
Well, we're
board.
gonna have to go through these
Board.
Oh, you're back.
Board.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. The Zoom froze. I had to. Did you guys end the meeting already?
We
The end of the
did.
meeting.
The Zoom froze at Fleetwood and Mac.
Oh, on the
All right, that's not too
resolutions.
bad. Okay,
I just was able to get it up. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the screen froze. I don't know how you
that's
guys.
probably just the weather.
I don't know how you guys want to go about this.
This because what he printed was,
Oh, God,
with the
yeah, I get
corrections.
it.
Okay, you
All
didn't-
right, Jesus
so it's just a
God.
page,
Yeah, all right, as long
okay,
as
but
it's
we
just
know
the
what
top page.
we know what the language
So
is.
what do you need from us, Matt? Anything?
It's up to you guys. I feel bad leaving out the end results of the resolutions, but really it's up to you. It's your meeting. For clarification purposes, I wanted to jump back in and let you guys know what happened.
I don't think we need to do that for the resolutions. Do you guys think we need, did David leave? David's
Yeah, we
gone.
can't ask, he couldn't
We
wait
have,
to get
we have no counsel to consult, so I think we're just going to leave it as is. Thank you for coming back to us. We
Yep.
appreciate that.
Yep.
But I think the horse has left the barn.
All right.
So,
It's just technical error, and I
no,
hope
it's okay. It happens.
I-
Happens all of
I hope everyone has a great night. I'm
Okay.
gonna officially
All right,
end the
thank you,
meeting.
dear. Thank
Bye.
you.